plunge now.
Hello, everybody. It's your favorite Top Shot Twitch person, maybe. If not, it's probably Von Schiller, who was on yesterday, or Steph Pseudo, who is always on, or Harold and Kamar do Top Shot with Abana and Andy, or any of the other people that make awesome content that we all get to ingest week in and week out. Thanks for joining tonight. We are going live from the Plungeon every Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And we've got some special guests tonight with us, a 2-for-1, if you will, or actually a 3-for-1 or a 4-for-1. I'm not even sure. It's going to get a little crazy. It's going to get a little wild. But if you're joining for the first time, this is Plunge Father. That's my at least persona on Twitter. My name's Pete in real life. No one calls me that. All the important women in my life call me Peter. All of my friends call me Pete. Call me whatever you want. Just not late for dinner. So we've got some special guests tonight. The first guests that we're going to have are from the Dapper team that built and is running NBA Top Shot. And many of you here are here probably to hear them talk and hear them speak and understand a little bit about what's going on in Top Shot and NBA Top Shot. T-Wolves 999, you commented, no, there are no birds chirping. That's some incredible shade thrown at the Schiller. I see him in the chat. It was a little tough with the Cockatiels the other day, but we're back. And, perhaps better or at least different than the Cockatiels. We've got a couple folks from Dapper, like I mentioned. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce them to the stream. So first and foremost, we have Alan. How are you?
Hey there, Plunge. I am doing great. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. So happy to have you on. So for everybody that doesn't know, this is Alan Carr is your actual last name, not Alan Falcon.
That's right.
Which is your Twitter handle. So I guess first question, why Alan Falcon?
Well, you've got the Plungeon. I've got the Falcon's nest going on here. I'm old school, which is just a nicer way to say I'm old. I got started with like online communities with dial-up bulletin board systems.
Ooh.
And the first thing you have to do when you finally, get your 14.4K baud modem and dial into the local BBS is come up with your handle. And this was the 90s, and I was trying to get into comic books, and the huge print run of like the Spider-Man and the Batman kind of intimidated me. Like I wanted to like ease my way into comic books. And so there was this new comic book that had just started up in the Marvel world, Darkhawk. And so it had a low print or a low, what is that? Just number,
edition
right?
size.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's very much like a low edition size, like a good entry point. I got in on the ground floor on Darkhawk there. He didn't last.
You knew it before it was cool.
Well, that was the hope. Darkhawk's no longer with us. Only lasted 50 issues, although he did have a 51st recently. Anyway, I was a big fan of Darkhawk at the time, and I wanted to have a cool, handle, but I didn't want to just like straight up be Darkhawk, a little too derivative. So I decided to mix it up a little bit, right? My high school mind, thinking far ahead here, and so I came up with Dark Falcon, and then AOL came around, and Dark Falcon was taken. But I found that I could be Alan Falcon and maintain a little bit of that persona and a little bit of myself, and been Alan Falcon ever since.
That's awesome. My first screen, that's a great icebreaker question, by the way. I live in corporate America, like many of the people that are in this Twitch stream, and all of us have endured tons and tons and tons of like dumb icebreakers at the beginning of meetings. My best icebreaker ever, and I love this one, is like now, especially like, what is one thing you have on your person that you are 100% sure that nobody else in the room has on them right now? So if I asked you that question in a room, what would it be?
It would be a Cheese Wizard sticker.
Okay.
And I don't even know how
What
many
is a
people
cheese
here
wizard sticker?
in the room knows what a cheese wizard is. So Dapper Labs, before there was NBA Top Shot, there was CryptoKitties. But
Right.
after there was CryptoKitties and before there was Top Shot, there was Cheese Wizards, which was a pretty amazing battle royale with cheese on the Ethereum blockchain. It was a winner-take-all, crazy rock, paper, scissors style tournament with hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line for the winner. It was insane. It was exactly what it sounds like. It was exactly as awesome as it looks like. Cheese Wizards. It was one of the most fun things I got to work on. We as a team learned a whole lot from it. We also learned like Ethereum is just, a total
Just
dead
wouldn't work.
end. Yeah.
Totally dead.
We were very fortunate that we launched it when gas prices were like relatively low because everything was on chain. All of the we had this whole commit reveal system. Anyway, it could get very geeky. Yeah. I'll try to hold off. But I'm pretty sure there's nobody out there who's got a Cheese Wizard sticker on them.
You would probably win. You would win, or at least be considered one of the winners in that particular icebreaker. And funny that you bring up cheese. My first AOL screen name, that was the genesis of this kind of tangent here, is that's my second favorite, is like, what was your first AOL screen name, or AIM or MSN or whatever your handle was? And mine was actually Mr. Cheese 22. So my dad I played baseball, and he thought that I threw the ball hard when I was a kid, which after I hit like age 13 and everybody else grew and I stayed the same size, he called it like cheese, that had some cheese on it. And so I was Mr. Cheese. Like, he used to call me that when I was a kid. So, so, and funnily enough, I was like number 6, and then I was number 9, and then it was 22. So I was 6922, but my parents wouldn't let me have 6922 because they were like 69. And I didn't know what it meant at the time because I was like 13. So it became Mr. Cheese 22. So that was my first AIM screen name. But we have someone else that's joining you from the Dapper Labs team. So I'm going to pull him in. His screen name's a little bit different than yours. This is Austin Kent. Welcome to the stream. For anybody that hasn't seen Austin out and about in the ecosystem, he is the content lead for NBA Top Shot. And, I'm super excited to have you on with us tonight as well. It was a pleasant surprise 10 minutes before the stream, but I'm excited to chop it up. So, what was I guess first question is like, what do you have around you right now that if I ask that question, what's something that you have on your person or within your immediate vicinity that you're 100% sure nobody in the room has? What would your answer be?
Well, I'm within arm's reach of a stack of 2002, 2003, like Upper Deck NBA cards. I was showing my 4-year-old a Michael Red rookie card just earlier today. I can't imagine too many people have those that accessible, but piles and binders of them all over the house.
So I guess you pick one card from that, and we're going to ask the chat if anybody's got one.
Well, okay. I mean, it's got to be the Michael Red rookie, right? Came out of nowhere and then kind of took the league by storm. I would be very surprised and happy if there was someone in the chat.
Okay. If anybody in the chat has a Michael Red rookie card from 0203, you win the secret prize from tonight. And I think probably the printout of the CryptoPunk over your right shoulder, Alan, is probably up there. If we get to that, great. If not, then no big deal. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and shoot Austin's Twitter to the chat here as well. If you don't follow him, you should. He's like I said, the content lead at NBA Top Shot. So before we dive into kind of what's going on in Top Shot world as a whole, I guess, Alan, we've heard your Genesis story a couple times, and we'll hit on a couple pieces of that. But like, Austin, how did you find your way into Top Shot?
Well, I've very much come from the editorial side. I've been writing about the league in some capacity or another for like 15 years. And most recently with Slam magazine, I was their news editor for the past few years. But when I first caught wind of Top Shot, what stood out to me the most was that it was a Canadian company doing like work in the NBA space. And like, I'm just north of Toronto. So that, I was like, how have I not heard of this? And the reason I hadn't heard of it is because it was just brand stinking new at the time. And so I quickly got involved, bought some, packs early on just as a collector. I was just hounding like Katie hounding Alan, anybody I could basically DM saying, hey,
Right.
like I'm very intrigued. Is there any way that you would have a need for like kind of just the NBA side of things, just to bring that
Sure.
context to the team? So yeah, and then fast forward a couple months, and here we are.
Yeah, and here you are. Not, I mean, barely a couple months, right? What was your first day at Dapper? Like February 8th?
Feb 16th, I think.
February 6th, so not even a couple months. Today is the 6th.
We were working with Austin from before that as well.
Fair
we
enough.
started him off with some contract work and
Okay.
test him out, and really appreciated his help, and really got to know Austin and his expertise, and started relying on it and realizing, we wouldn't be able to do our job without him anymore. So brought him on.
Well, that's good. That's good. So, I mean, let's dive in there then. So, Alan, you are the game and system designer for Dapper Labs, or one of the, if not the game and systems designer for Dapper Labs, which has direct kind of oversight over NBA Top Shot. Is it safe to assume that you are working on other projects as a game and system designer for Dapper Labs outside of NBA Top Shot?
So working on is a strong term.
Collaborating with, providing insight for.
Yeah, I'm hard to contain. I want to get my hands in everything, and I want to see everything that's going on. And so I definitely have had some input and poked my nose into some of the other projects that we've been involved in putting together at Dapper Labs. But for sure, my absolute focus is on NBA Top Shot. You know? And that's where I'm spending my time and energy. But yeah, you can't keep me away from the other things that are going on.
Okay, so I guess with that, there collaborate. You can't keep your nose out of the things that are coming down the pipeline.
That's right.
Are other things coming down the pipeline? I think some of us may know that like there are other things out there, but what's next?
So we haven't announced exactly what's actually next. What I can say is that some of the stuff that I've been involving myself in is actually work that we've been doing with other partners, like outside of Dapper Labs, because as you know, we launched the Flow blockchain for Top Shot because, like I said, the experiences with Ethereum, weren't working out for us. We found that out for sure with Cheese Wizards. Like we pretty much knew by then, but we found out for sure it was just not going to work with Cheese Wizards. And so we built the Flow blockchain, and so there's a lot of people coming to us wanting to build on the Flow blockchain. It's not our blockchain; it's a decentralized blockchain, but we're the experts, at least for now. And so people are coming to us for advice, and they want to know, how can they build on it, and what makes sense to build. And they want to know what we've done to find success with NBA Top Shot and what else we're working on. So I've been working actually with a number of internal people who are working with some external teams to bring their projects to Flow. And I don't believe all of those have been announced yet, but but they're exciting, and I'm really excited to get to start collecting some more Flow NFTs.
Yeah, I keep hitting on every time. Like I'm so excited when I can point my Dapper wallet at other things, right? That it's I guess right now it's self-contained in the ecosystem. It's what do we call it? Custodial wallet, where we not just have custodial wallet for my moments in NBA Top Shot, but then there's sort of a cordoned off Dapper wallet that has all of my Dapper USDC, basically. Like when I can point that at something else in general, like I would love to be able to essentially like trade into and out of different NFTs on the same blockchain, as opposed to having to go in and out for an Ethereum based project or something like that, which is a huge barrier to entry for someone like me who only is in NBA Top Shot. And I've poked around on a couple different Ethereum based blockchain projects, but just haven't pulled the trigger because the kind of friction to get in is just probably too great for me right now. I just don't have that much expendable income or a credit card that I can point at it and just run. So I'd like to convert some of that stuff. So I'm excited about that. That's cool. But I guess with NBA Top Shot stuff in general, your team, how big is your team? Like it's Alan and Austin, right? You guys work together, but like, what does your team look like more broadly? What is the day-to-day from an operations you all?
talking about the content, like live operations team,
Yeah.
which is sort of what Austin and I work on. Austin,
Yes.
why don't you tell the people?
Yeah, so I like to think of myself as the dumbest guy in every conference call we do. There's probably what is there 5 or 6 of us that are involved at different steps in the like the process that goes along with generating the moments that ultimately end up coming out in packs. We've got some great guys that do the minting, that do all the the really complex stuff that's just way over my head. And then there's about the 2 or 3 of us that really sort of focus on curating the the moments that are going to be included in the base set, the moments that are going to be included in any sets that come out, really, just to make sure that they're all balanced, that we're covering everything we want to cover in a good way. That also fits into the economy that's been laid out by Alan and everybody else. So 6 people, I guess.
Okay, well, that's cool. So you mentioned sort of the process of, hey, highlight happens, play happens in the NBA world, and we curate, right? You use that term. We curate with, I assume, the NBA Players Association and their their media arm to some degree. But like, when you say balance, what do you mean by that?
Well, we're always sort of keeping tabs on what players we haven't gotten to yet, and if we're not doing it, we certainly hear about it on Twitter. So
who's the one that's clamored for most?
Oh, Robert Williams. Robert
Williams,
Time Lord. But Time Lord fans can rest assured that good stuff is happening for him.
Yeah, I have seen a Hami Diallo moment, Matt Master, but I don't know about Cassius Winston.
I don't think we have a Winston. We do have a Diallo.
Yeah, I've seen the Diallo before. Oh, hey, I didn't mean to put that one up there. Hey, Bay. And I know Clay Thompson is the one that, obviously he's not playing this year, but I think that's there's, in terms of like, I want this thing, there's like Clay, and then there's like a huge chasm between him and the next person, I'd imagine. But there's at least no content for him for the time being.
Exactly. So
you have a list. You actually have a list. Here's who we haven't gotten to yet.
We have a list, and we're there's limitations about what we can sort of get in and when we can get them in. But if it's up to us, all things considered, if everything breaks right, we'll get all the players that at least are significant rotation players. We're scrambling hard to get them in. So
yeah,
I'm watching Isaiah Thomas play tonight. So there's another guy that we kind of need to get in. He's just made his return to the league for the first time since early last year. So
he's with the Pelicans now, right?
Yeah.
I think I saw
points.
I saw Josh Hart tweet at him today. He said, "I see you, IT."
There we go.
It's kind of interesting, you start following people that are, Top Shot adjacent, shall I say, the types of things that you get exposed to and see that you would never have seen otherwise. My personal Twitter and my Plunge Father Twitter are very different in terms of the stuff that shows up on my timeline. So interestingly, when you talk about like curating moments and balance within not just like players, but within like types of moments across the spectrum. Something I saw today that I wanted to bring up, which I think is really funny. Trey from, is it No Dunks? He said something like only 3% of Top Shot moments are plays in the post. He's got a spreadsheet that he's going through. So like when you look at here's what we have and the qualities of the individual moments that you have, are you looking at them strictly from like what they're defined as in the play like classification, or are you looking at other things as well? For example, things like, hey, that was sort of a silly play, like Robin Lopez with the weird like baseline fadeaway thing, or like this was a really cool handles play that was like a funny handles play versus something that like someone got their ankle broke or whatever it is. Like, do you guys think about things in those terms, or is it strictly like we need more steals, we need more assists, we need more people from X team or Y team?
I think like first and foremost, it's not so much just filling quotas. It's just filling, like I like to think of it as filling packs with moments that people are going to get excited about. And not every moment is going to be like Anthony Edwards like dunk, which was the Rising Stars like reward. Not every play is like that, and that's just basketball. But like some plays it might be the action on the floor. For other plays, it might be the context of the situation. Milestones, may get in there. I've heard about LaMelo Ball's like 3-star rookie moment from more than a few people. It's not the most exciting, but when you think about it as the first assist of a potentially really great player, so all those things sort of come into effect.
There's a good question in the chat from a deep threat who I've seen on the stream many times, is talking about like premium plays for premium moments. And I have a very specific use case for or example of this. Like for example, with the hollow icon reward for James Harden, like it's a James Harden assist, but really it's a Kyrie handles play, at least in my opinion. It doesn't focus on him. It's more like, hey, that was kind of a cool between the legs thing. But do you guys think about that in terms of like the tiers? Is it like here are the hollow icons, here are the MGLEs or other premium moments, and you sort of pick and choose from within that? Or is it all the plays go into a hopper and we need to sort of dole them out to the packs that we have ready to rock?
It's something where we definitely are paying attention, but it isn't as for me personally, and this is something that we debate and talk about on the team quite a lot, and try to find what that right balance is. But for me personally, I don't know. I'm a man of the people. When I see something like incredible out there, like when I think back to the go-to example, right? The Kobe LeBron dunk. The tribute. I'm really happy and proud that is available as a common, not just like a 1 of 25 or something, right? Like it's something that
it's accessible.
It is accessible. And now I'm not saying that all plays should be or need to be accessible. I'm not saying the best plays need to be or shouldn't be accessible, but I'm saying that if we said explicitly only the best plays are always at legendary, then that means that most people will never own any of the best plays. And I don't think that's what makes Top Shot great if we were to do that. So like if we were to have that hardline stance. Now, should premium plays make their way into premium sets? Absolutely. But there's a lot of room for them in the other sets as well, especially as challenge rewards where we get to have a little bit more fun with it, right?
Yeah.
And so like you talk about the Anthony Edwards, that could have easily been a legendary play, but I think it makes a lot of sense where it came out. And part of it is also when a play like that comes out, we want to collect that. And it might be a little while before the next legendary set rolls around. And, we can't always help ourselves. Sometimes we hold back, but sometimes we're like, what is the first opportunity we have to slam this into the product? Because we need this out there right now.
Lots of positive reinforcement in the chat, by the way, on this answer. Great answer. Appreciate that. Great take. I love this. I agree with you across the board on all of this stuff. It's also the reason why, once, I don't know if you've put pen to paper on Michael Jordan, certainly pen to paper on Michael Jordan as an investor in Top Shot, which assumes that we then, at least in my opinion, there's some level of assumption that he will give you guys the blessing to use his IP in some way, shape, or form. And I assume Kobe to some degree as well. I don't know what those conversations will look like. They are separate. Their estates and everything are negotiated separate from the Players Association, as with, I think, a handful more of like the megastars of times past and maybe some that are not megastars. But from my perspective as someone who's into this sort of as sort of a collector, but also pseudo speculative investor in some different ways. Like, I don't think that you can make the Michael Jordan first moment a rare out of 500, right? You need to make it out of 100 million, and you need to put it in Lucky Charms boxes with a QR code that, like, right now my kids get, like, my wife bought 3 boxes of cereal this week and they all had a Pokemon pack in it. And like, I think that the first Jordan probably needs to be something like that, or else the world's going to explode. So that's not a question, but thoughts on that.
What are your thoughts, Austin?
Yeah, what are your thoughts? Like, how big? Like, and I don't want to put you on the hot seat for like when the Jordan comes out. Like, how big is it going to be? Because I don't want people to get the wrong impression. But in terms of accessibility to really iconic plays or moments, is that thought process going to carry through?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously such an exciting time to start thinking about what the possibilities are, and I think there's room for kind of a bit of both. Like, that Michael Jordan guy was pretty good, and there's a decent amount of good plays, and I think we're going to get, down the road, or we're going to get some
Right.
great moments that are accessible, and I think we're going to get some great moments that maybe aren't quite as accessible to regular people, maybe like you and I. But the most important part is just sharing basketball with anybody, whether they're like a 12-year-old just doing it for fun, or they're somebody who remembers watching MJ when they were a kid.
Yeah.
So a little bit of everything. I know that's a cop-out answer, but
No,
that's where I stand.
I think I'm not I'm not Barbara Walters on 60 Minutes or anything. I'm not going to like put the thumb screws to you guys on anything. I do want. There are some questions that people have that I want to bring up, and in particular with challenges and like what the vision of that stuff looks like. But before we get into that stuff where it's like really specific nitty gritty stuff, Alan, question for you on this one: how does the initial conceptualization of what Top Shot would look like with a user base at 250,000 people, how does that look from design boards a year ago or a year and a half ago to what it actually looks like today?
Yeah, so I think we've seen a lot of the changes from those initial designs to where we are today when you just look at some of the differences between Series 1 and Series 2. For example, one of the, I talk about how the tribute dunk is available as a common, and it's also available as a legendary, right? That was something that was on the design board as a way to make the plays have super special versions out there, and also make them in many cases accessible, and let people sort of find their own level of fandom. Like, how much does this mean to you? How much do you want to kind of show that this is important to you? Like, do you go for that legendary, or are you happy just having it in your collection? Was something that we thought was interesting, and that kind of played into the sort of parallels thing that you get in sports cards today. But we got really loud, clear feedback from the community that it wasn't immediately obvious that like why that would exist in that way, and it required some kind of mental hurdle jumping in order to for people to understand, like, actually, no, this is kind of, this is legit and this works. And so while I still personally feel that like system kind of works, it's really clear that by moving to a system where we had just a single play and a single tier plus platinum ice, which will come down the line.
Yeah, don't get me started on that one. That's a fun one too.
It's clear that allowed people to just kind of jump in and not have to spend a lot of time figuring out Top Shot. They could just kind of jump into Top Shot, and that's really valuable, and that's been great for growing to that 250,000 plateau so far, and
it's more than 250,000. I threw that number out there.
Sure.
It's 350,000. I think Greg Murray ran the numbers recently with help from Evaluate Market. I think there's like 350 to 400,000 people that have a moment owned right now. That there are plenty of people that have accounts that have not yet purchased a moment because they haven't hit a pack yet. All of that fun stuff. So it's growing a lot. A lot more than the 5,000 people that were in the Discord when I joined 10 weeks ago, whatever it was. So I think I'm curious from your perspective, where have there been any, and I don't want to say admit your mistakes and like, let me publicly flog you, but like, were there any choices that you made or that you've made in the last couple months that like, if you had the redo button, you would go back and switch how you approached it?
Yeah. So for me, the way I look at it, a lot of these situations that have come up that I have regretted, it's not so much the product that I think I regret. I think it's more our communication of the product and what's coming down the pipe. Like, we didn't properly lay out all of our like awesome all-star plans. Like, I think that we had some really cool stuff planned, with the NBA, like getting to announce the Rising Stars, but also having that accessible set with the Seeing Stars that'll let people collect all of these all-stars. And then it was like clear to us that as long as the game was any good, right? As long as there were some like killer plays,
Okay, plays in it, yeah.
Yeah, that we would want to be able to capture that, and as kind of an exhibition game, it makes sense for those to kind of live within their own set. Um, they're sort of like their own special thing, and I feel like if we had come out before the All-Star week, and part of it was we didn't want to like steal
the thunder, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like, but if we had communicated some of like this is coming and this is coming, people wouldn't have put undue emphasis maybe on some of those seeing stars. Like just the context wasn't there. We didn't do a great job of communicating that.
Sure.
And I feel like if people knew what was coming, then they would have not felt so surprised by it in a way that wasn't good, and embraced it more, right?
So just to be clear, like the plan from the get-go was seeing stars and then rising stars with the announcement with the NBA. And that was in the works for a while, sounds like.
It came together as an interesting thing where like don't want to talk too much behind the scenes, especially on behalf of the NBA, but with everything in the world that was going on, they were remaining pretty flexible on their own plans. It was really late in the game that the NBA All-Star game was even announced.
It wasn't even until like February or like right around Austin when you came in that they had confirmed it. So at least in the weeks leading up, we'll say that in the weeks leading up to that, you knew at that point then like there was going to be a Rising Stars announcement that you would then have content to deliver with. And then the plan was assuming that the All-Star game had enough content to produce an All-Star set, like those three things. What I'm trying to say is seeing stars, rising stars, and All-Star game were all part of the plan, at least before that. In terms of how they all condensed and then the community feedback is a nice term for how some people felt about it. I was fine with it because I didn't care all that much about particular pieces. But from the feedback, was that so? It sounds like that was maybe not foreseen. How much do you feel that was a compounding effect of like the Cool Cats delays and some of the other things that sort of locked everything up with 6 or 7 challenges happening simultaneously?
It was, like the timing of everything was not ideal as it turned out. And we were still like, we were all pushing really hard to be able to deliver that All-Star experience. And I think that was part of what blinded us to the communication challenges that were clearly on the horizon. Is we were just very focused on actually being able to deliver it, and that involved like some of those decisions about who even makes the All-Star game come pretty late, and we have to like struggle and figure out
hello, Mike Conley.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Hi, how's it going, Mike? Which in the grand scheme, like it's not unexpected, I think, is the grand scheme of things. But I will say kudos to you and for the team that put the Mike Conley Challenge Award audio video stuff together. I put a poll out there on Twitter. I don't know if you saw it, but it was like, what do you think of this? Right. As a player commenting on their moment. And overwhelmingly, I think it was something like 75+% of people had a very positive outlook on that thing. So, I think as more of those types of design elements, because that's what I look at it as, is like, this is an experience thing, right? Like as more of those things come in, the novelty of this stuff is cool. Like and that's what kept me in and drew me in initially, is like, this is cool. And I still feel that way. Even if some of the more macro like feelings of count valuation stuff and the marketplace dynamics, which we're not really going to hit on in detail, but like it's challenging to feel that way. But I still feel there's some like wonder and whimsy there, which is awesome. And which brings up the sort of next question that I have, and it was specifically directed to Alan, but I'm going to ask it to Austin too. From a like a design element perspective, what are you most proud of that your team's been able to execute in terms of what actually shows on the site and how it displays?
I mean, I think the creative all over the site, from the pack art to the way the site is laid out, I think that was just such a good thing to get right out of the gates. And that's certainly what I think captivated me just as a collector, first and foremost. And every time I look at, a new design aspect that gets added, just the sheer aesthetic of it, it's just, for me, just such a pleasure to experience. So that's kind of what I'm most psyched about, at least every time I log on, just as a fan even.
For me, there's some good kind of informational, communicative design elements that we've been working on that I think I'm really excited for people to get to see. But to answer your question in terms of things that we've shipped, this is such a small thing, but it's the small things sometimes that bring that surprise and delight and joy to the product and the platform that I really love. The way that the badges, when you load up a moment and they've got those badges and they do that little like shine, like they're like being applied, and it's this little, just that little gloss, and it's like it could have just been a static image appearing there, but like our animation team, Jack in particular on that, I believe, like took it to the next level with this neat little effect. And I just love how that shows up. It always brings an extra little smile to my face when I see that, when I'm loading one of those moments, and it really brings attention to the badge and the specialness of the badge. And I think it's cool that we're able to still, do those little things.
Cool. That's awesome. So on that note, I'm actually going to bring in another member of the Plunge crew with Chugs and Bugs, because we had been talking about this earlier, and we had been chatting, like, what do we need to ask Alan? What are the things that we want to make sure that we hit on with he and anybody from his team that come on, in particular with some of the like utility stuff, right? Like challenges and utility things, design choices outside of, hey, this is strictly a marketplace that you can buy and sell stuff. And one of the things that came up, which kudos to you guys for putting the challenge reward stars on the moments, is sort of related to that dynamic. So Chugs, I think you had a question that you wanted to ask. Do you want to take it from here? Cause I'm going to butcher it.
Yeah, sure. And this was something that I pulled, and basically it was on the backs of the star being applied to challenge rewards. It was, should the star only be applied to those who actually completely, like an earned it star versus a bought it star, right? Should the star be gray if they bought it, or should it just not exist if you bought it on the market? And would that be, the implication being, could that later mean it could be a key to something else, unlock some other privilege or some other ability or reward later on, right? A little kind of gamification and aspect of things that hasn't really shown its face yet within Top Shot. And so I guess to that end, I kind of just wanted to get your insight on, is that something that might be on the roadmap, or is that a concept that is interesting to you guys, or how do you guys see that sort of concept? Because when we polled it, it was about a 2 to 1, and it was, it was only like 3,000 people who voted, but 2 to 1, they basically said there should be some kind of differentiation for earned it versus bought it. So what's your take there?
I love that question, and I love the thought behind it, right? And the thought process behind it, and the sort of like the wheels turning. So to give the boring part of the answer, the challenge reward indicator was really important to me personally, because it explains, like, when you're looking, exactly, you're looking at the moments and you're like, wait a minute, where did this number come from? Right.
Right. 1040. Like, what the hell?
497. Why is it 497?
Where does that come from? And the idea had always sort of been that, like, yes, these are common moments or rare moments, but they're really like rare asterisk moment, which is actually where the star like concept initially came from for challenges, right? We were thinking about all these things, and we're like, this is kind of like the common star tier, right? Like, which is why this isn't actually like a badge. It's an indicator that's part of the tier. and associated with that individual moment. And so when you're looking at the marketplace as well, right now, when you're looking at the marketplace, you're looking at all moments of that play in that set, right? So how would you differentiate between ones that are owned and unowned in that view? You couldn't until you got down to the individual moment level. Of course, it's not so important on the marketplace because obviously the design of it would be like, sure, maybe it's a like owned by the owner star, but then by the time you buy it, it's not anymore. So it would make sense to show it there anyway. But we really did want to show that as an indicator of like what makes this stand out and what makes this different and what explains like this weird edition size that maybe doesn't even fit within the tier. You know, like when we say commons go up to a certain number, but that doesn't necessarily fit when it comes to the challenge rewards. So that's the boring part of the answer. But the interesting, fun part of the answer is like I said, the thinking behind that. And I absolutely think that there is this fertile ground and opportunity to play with the provenance and the earningship. I don't have a good word for that. Like where this
it's like leveling up in a video game or something, you know, like
exactly.
Yeah.
And I'll drop. This is just me, Alan, speaking. Right. This is not a product feature.
This is not
the never actually show up.
Put a disclaimer.
Exactly. It could. I'm going to fight for it. Right. But I think that there will be an opportunity along those same lines of what you described. And I totally think that there is room there for us to show that, like, hey, this is a challenge reward that was earned by this person. And maybe even like, this is how they earned it, you know, at some point.
Right.
Like specifically, like, look, they even like bothered to get like matching serial numbers for their challenge or something insane. Like that could tie in eventually. Again, just me speaking. But along similar lines, imagine that you get like a you get a Mike Conley moment from Mike Conley. Now there's this 1 degree of separation concept that could exist, right? If I were to get it from Mike Conley and then sell it to you, now it's 2 degrees of separation, right? Now it's maybe degraded a little bit from that direct connection, and that has sort of the same feel. Just a bit, right? It's still something that was owned by Mike Conley. That's pretty awesome. But it isn't something that Mike Conley gave to you. It was something he gave to me, and then I sold to you. But I think there's something really cool about getting it directly from an athlete, or even, you know, from a Plunge father, right? If I could get a moment from you, and then there's that clear, like,
Evan Tan
separation.
Evan Tan bought my my Sabonis, my Seeing Star Sabonis the other day, and he tweeted it out. I'm pretty sure.
And that's the beauty of the NFT, right?
Yeah, I gave you a gift. I gave you
I got
as
a gift
a thank
from
you.
Plunge.
As a thank you. Yeah, but it doesn't say from me because I didn't sell it to you. I just gifted it to you. That's another thing. It, like the transaction history. That's a
So
you know this.
Right, exactly. All of this is recorded on the blockchain. It's just for now we focused on getting that transaction history as part of it because that's so vital to like understanding valuations and all.
This is an awesome idea, by the way. This is Caruso's Missing Hair. He's the guy that built or excuse me that produced the video and the song at the beginning of the show that you heard, which is awesome, by the way. Thank you again, Caruso's Missing Hair. But leaving a note like an internet guest book.
So I've been calling that "Make Your Mark" or like
there we go.
Again, another just like dream of Alan that may or may not one day show up.
Can I fold it in half? Fold my moment in half.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like if you own it, you should be able to do what you want with it, and that could include, you know, adding something that maybe makes it more valuable. Maybe you're like, hey, you may not realize this, but if you look in the
dazzle mine,
or maybe it does. Maybe it's tripping. A bad move.
Right, and maybe it's something that actually reduces the value again. I don't know what's with me and wanting people to be able to grade the value of their NBA Top Shot moments, but apparently that's where we are. But like, I could write some nonsense on it, and now like nobody wants to buy this moment. It can be the cheapest one in the marketplace, and people skip past it. Obviously, there's like a lot of UI considerations. How do you even know that it's got the mark on there, and things that would have to be thought through and figured out. But something I think is really cool. And again, I really love the fact that NFTs are non-fungible, that this moment is not the same as this moment, even though they show the same video. And I think
right.
that there's a lot that we can do with that.
So here's the question, Alan. 5 years from now, when you're on the marketplace in NBA Top Shot and you have all these different usability and UI changes that have happened, and you're looking at two different moments. It's the LeBron Kobe dunk. It's serial number 656 and 657 right next to each other. They're listed for exactly the same price. 656 is still owned by the original owner that pulled it out of the pack. 657 has been sold, bought and sold 17 times. Same price.
Right.
Which one are you buying?
So I'm looking at that ownership history. I'm looking to see like whose hands that's gone through. It's possible that there's a name in that list that I think would be fun to be associated with. I do this with CryptoKitties. I look at the CryptoKitties I buy, and I'm like, ooh, this was owned by Poopy Cat at one time. I want this in my litter, and it has extra meaning to me. That's right. Poopy Cat and I started Kitty Calc, which is how I ended up at NBA Top Shot. So
what? You started what?
Kitty Calc. So it was a calculator that let you figure out if you breed these two cats together, what outcome is likely or possible to come out of it. That is how my Dapper Labs journey started, was a fun little community tool. So all of you out there building these amazing tools for NBA Top Shot, we're always watching, and that is how I got my start into the company, which has led me here. Poopy Cat, also known as Jordan, was like I said, together we built that. We both joined the Dapper team about the same time, and we've both been working really hard to bring and make like Top Shot awesome for everybody, as well as some other projects. Yeah.
So now the question is, and like, Kitty Calc, I'm looking at it right now. I just sent it to the chat. I guess I can share it. Hold on. I can share my screen, right? Yep. Hold on. Share screen. Number 2. There we go. You can see it. So you and Poopy Cat built this website, and this is how you made your way to Dapper Labs.
That's right. So this, like, my like complicated origin story is I got started breeding cats. I was running out of money. I wanted to do a better job of it. So I built this insane spreadsheet that would read the kitty's genes and then calculate all the probabilities of different outcomes that could come, so that I could figure out how to breed a Santa cat more efficiently. That was my whole goal. And I spent like 4 days straight building the most complicated spreadsheet I'd ever seen. I was doing things I didn't know you could do, but like I needed to do them. And so I created this crazy spreadsheet and tried sharing it with members of the community, and they were all like, how the hell do I use this? And so I actually contacted Poopy Cat and asked him if he wanted to help me make a user-friendly version of it. And together we were able to build this tool, which was quite popular back in the day.
Austin,
this is incredible.
Did you ever think that in your basketball career you would be tied in with Poopy Cat?
Yeah, I had to do a deep dive into CryptoKitties when Top Shot popped up on my radar. There wasn't much overlap before then.
Yeah.
So this brings up
the places you'll go.
Yeah, I know, right? This brings up an interesting conversation about, has anybody built this for Zed Run yet? Do we know?
So
why haven't you built it, Alan?
The way that we were able to build this was actually, there was a member of the community, Kai, who is awesome and out there doing some NFT art, generative art stuff, lots of on-chain stuff. Definitely check out what he's working on. He's been doing some like art blocks projects as well as some other things on his own. But he actually saw the CryptoKitties genome as this incredible puzzle to solve. Yeah. And not only was he able to crack the genome and figure out how the breeding worked, but he was also someone who like had the capacity to really break it down and describe it with really nice, easy to understand diagrams. He came from a UI UX background, worked for like Sony and then Netflix, and anyway, so like he's this like world class like product and UI guy, and he's solving the CryptoKitties genome, and he was really kind enough to share it with the world. So Kai was the reason I was able to create Kitty Calc, which was the reason I was able to join Dapper Labs here. But I have heard that certain elements have actually reached out to Kai to try to get him to work his magic again for Zed Run. I think he's probably a little busier these days with some of his own projects, so I'm not sure that it'll come. But I do believe it'll come. But watch out, because one thing that came with CryptoKitties was the imposters at the same time. So as Kitty Calc was out there, there were other people trying to solve that same problem. You know, how do you breed your cats together to get a Santa kitty? And they decided, well, let's use machine learning and let's just throw all the data in here. And they created this really fancy looking calculator that promised to do the same thing. But whereas Kitty Calc was actually doing the actual math, the same math that was being done on the blockchain to determine the outcome of the breeds, this machine learning algorithm would do crazy things like say, so there's one Genesis cat out there, right? But for whatever reason, the machine was like, if you breed any two cats together, there's like a 0.1% chance that your cat will be born as Genesis, which makes no sense at all. But, so watch out for imposters out there. Look for the real deal when those Zed calcs come out.
Okay. I got a question off of all that.
I'm sorry. I just can't.
Trying to bring it back to the Top Shot for a second here. In terms of the breeding concept, though, with Top Shot, without having to give away too much, is there any kind of concept that involves combining like a starting lineup of a team and it could like yield something different, or is there anything where like the sum could be greater than its parts within Top Shot? Has any of that been sort of revealed, laid out, or hinted at?
Burn all of my Isaiah Robies and make a mecha Isaiah Roby.
Anything along those lines? Is that concept something that's possible, not possible, or?
Sure. So when we started talking to the NBA, we were known for CryptoKitties, and so for some reason, everybody,
our players with each other.
Everybody who heard that we were talking to the NBA and had the possibility of doing NBA was like, "Well, how is that going to work?" Like when NFT doesn't mean breedable tokens, right? It means non-fungible. We can do something that makes a little more sense for the NBA. Now that said, like you said, there is absolutely the possibility of this combining and upgrading and like bringing things together that maybe in one context makes them worse and maybe in another context makes them better, that where it matters what you're putting together, and those could be like temporary groupings, something more like a showcase and maybe like what you should do with Swish, and they could be much more permanent and have permanent effects that again could degrade your NFT if you do it poorly.
You could do like a little NBA Jam series, two sums, something like that. It could be cool.
I like thinking.
So on that note, and there are lots of questions out there, and I've talked ad nauseum about hardcourt, and like hardcourt's coming. So just to confirm a couple things that I think I've heard out in the ecosystem, and you can give me like yep or no. Like maybe we'll just go that way. And if anybody in the chat has like specific questions about hardcourt, my first question is the working name still hardcourt?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you share any details as to the planned release or planned beta in terms of time?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So I'm gonna jump in real fast. I worked at Blizzard for a time, and the thing that we learned at Blizzard, the thing that Blizzard knew and had been doing for many years was, they won't release something until it was ready. That was certainly true, back then. I won't speak to some of their more recent releases, but
Blizzard makes really World of Warcraft, correct?
That's right, World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo, some of the bigger franchises.
Some of the really big franchises.
Yeah, and when I started working there, they were working on this thing called StarCraft Ghost, which was going to be this FPS featuring a character from the StarCraft universe. I was super excited about it. And I walked into the building for the first time, and there's this giant mural from StarCraft Ghost. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. And then like a week later, they announced that they were indefinitely postponing it because it just wasn't hitting their standards of quality. Sure. And they eventually brought that character into like later games and brought some of the scenarios and that experience. But I think we are aware that it's really important that this not just be a game that's out there that uses NBA
the
Top
right
Shot.
game.
It's got to be the right game. And the thing about games that even Blizzard Entertainment, right, until you have all the pieces in place, it can make all the sense on paper and just not click, or it could click so well. And so even when you're 90% of the way there,
Sure.
There's always like the chance that you're like, this just isn't quite right. And there's also the chance that like, yes, this is it exactly. And so all I can say is we're not at 100%. And so that means everything is still up in the air, and we're going to, be careful about it.
Okay. So I won't hit you with my 7 pages of hardcore questions then that I prepared. The first of which, and it's maybe a question that that has already been addressed, but in terms of like utilizing moments within a game, whatever that game ends up being, or some future utility of these things, how conscious is Dapper of the sort of pay to win concept, that if a legendary or a platinum ice or any of these other things that are incredibly rare, but now are incredibly expensive relative to what they were 2 months ago, how has that changed, if at all, kind of the plans for utilization of those things in the future?
So one thing that I'll say is that we've always been aware of the fact that one of the coolest opportunities for Hardcore is the opportunity to really show off your favorite moments from your collection, like in people's faces, right? Imagine you're playing against somebody and you're able to like not only like kick their butt, but do so, with your Alex Caruso early adopters moment that you're like super excited about for some reason, right? Like they'll be exposed to that, right? That's something that is a great opportunity in Hardcore. And so is that utility? Like, is my moment better because it's a series 1 early adopters? No, probably not. But is it better for me? Like, does it make my experience of playing the game better? Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah, it's like it's the wristband or the armband that you wear in the rec pickup game that doesn't actually help you at all, but like makes you look a little swaggier.
It helps you though.
It helps. It keeps my shooting arm warm. Like, get out of here, Dave. Like, you're a tweaked ankle away from the hospital right now. Like, you're gonna rip an Achilles. Get out of here. So I have, and at some point, can you make a promise to me though? Like, when you guys are ready to talk about Hardcore, can we do this again? Because like, I really have a lot of questions about, and I'm sure when the beta is released and all this stuff, I am personally like very interested in where this is going, and I would love to pick your brain about some of the process stuff that like got you to, assuming that it comes out like down the line. If it does come out, like I would love to have that oral history of like how we got to where we are, what didn't work, what did work, and so forth. So put that like pin in that later on. I know you can't talk about it now.
Let me add it to my calendar here.
Yeah.
And the secret release date that we definitely know is coming. Okay, yeah, cool. Great.
Fair enough. All right. So a couple other questions that came up in, me mining my friends and family, and, not really my family, but my Top Shot family, for lack of a better word, for some of the other things that like, hey, is there any merit to this? Have you guys considered some of this stuff? As how much of the design element stuff do you guys work with the NBA on in terms of presentation? So whether it's the rookie badges or anything like that, how much of that kind of gets, I don't want to say the flagpole will get run up, but like how collaborative is that group of people, Austin, that you're working with in some of the design element stuff outside of just let's select the moments?
Yeah, we definitely work with the NBA like on a daily basis, but you even mentioned the badges, and a great example of that is just making sure that everybody is in agreement on what's considered a rookie, which in basketball is usually pretty black and white, not necessarily the case in baseball. But the bubble last July sort of threw a wrench in things, and like Bol technically speaking, because he debuted in the bubble, he's technically eligible to win Rookie of the Year this year. So things like that, we just need to make sure that we're all on the same page with, because a lot of people, including us, ended up classifying Bol as a rookie in 2019-20. And then there's the union. There's all these stakeholders that need to be sort of at least on the same page. And certainly in terms of what content actually comes out, like what, images get used and what plays and stuff like that. Everything is pretty collaborative in that sense.
In terms of
quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, Chucks.
I just want to bump in, Austin. What's your favorite moment that you've kind of picked like in the past month? Like, what's the one that you were like, man, I nailed this one? This is like a softball, but I kind of wanted to.
The moment that I was most excited to be involved with was the no look LeBron 3. I knew the second I saw the clip.
Nailed it.
The second I saw the clip, I'm like, this is going to like break the internet. Like when this one comes out, I was so psyched. At that point, I believe I was just writing the play descriptions at that time. But I'm like, this is just going to be the most memorable one of the batch. So
that's perfect. That's like that speaks to what y'all were saying earlier, just about making sure that the best moments aren't just the most exclusive moments. I think that one to me, and for Series 2, and who knows what's down the pike, but I think that one's going to stand apart as sort of the most desirable, accessible moment, so to say. I pulled it in a pack. I was fortunate enough, but I think that's awesome. I was just curious, kind of, since you're clearly sifting through tons of footage, so just curious which one stood apart. So
has the process for curating moments changed at all in the last 2 months or 3 months?
I would say it has. Just like I don't have the full picture. I kind of have like a snapshot in time of that picture, but we're kind of bringing on more resources. More people are involved in making sure we do hit those balances I was talking about earlier. Making sure everything gets covered, and making sure that like everything we end up putting out is just something that people are going to want. It certainly feels like we're able to be in front of the ball more, as opposed to being kind of reactive to what gets sent to us, and be more proactive in that sense. And that just opens up all these possibilities for us in terms of, being more vocal on Twitter, engaging the community, and saying, hey, we know what people want. Like, because we have these resources, we don't just need to settle.
Got a great hashtag for people to tell you.
Well, there's also, I feel like it's kind of cool. It's got to be cool in that position where there's this balance of what the culture is saying is important versus like what you like, the story you'd like to tell for the NBA season, and sort of balancing that, right? And so I think that's got to be a very kind of there's pressure there, right? That it's like make sure that I'm properly encapsulating what the collective is really wanting to see, right? Which I'm sure, again, that hashtag Top Shot this, it's getting hit a bazillion times every single day. So that's got to be a cool kind of seat where you're sort of the narrator of the NBA season in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's just such a fun gig, and then we get some players that have a Top Shot worthy highlight every single night. Like, how how many Ja Morant highlights we have? But
he's a Grizzly fan.
All of the Ja Morant highlights.
There you go, right? We could release a new Ja moment every week.
Desmond Bain, like right now. Just I know it's there. I know it's been minted. I'm just ready for it.
It's coming. It's coming.
So in terms of the turnaround time, I think I heard Alan speak about this at some point 2 months ago or 3 months ago, even the turnaround time between play happens like in real life versus when you guys have it on a moment or like ready to be in a pack. What does the turnaround time look like right now?
Currently, like, I don't know, would you say at least a month, I guess? And sometimes that can change. Like,
sure.
Sometimes we end up having to like call an audible.
All-Star games are good. good example like that came out much quicker than
exactly like that. My Conley play got turned around pretty quick.
Pretty quick, I imagine. Yeah.
But no, I think we all have different visions of being able to tighten that process up, and I think Dapper's done a good job of sort of putting resources towards getting there eventually. So I'd love to do that. At least make it so people know when to expect, whether it's a month later, whether it's a week later, whether it's the next day. Like, as long as people know, like, hey, I watched this great play with like my family. When can I reasonably expect it to be on the platform?
That makes sense. So a couple other ideas for badges that people have asked about, like beyond rookie badges and challenge reward badges, I guess yes or no, are there other badges being considered or planned in the short-term future?
How short-term are we talking?
Short to medium term, like in the next year. I don't know.
So absolutely.
By the start of next season.
By the start of Series 3.
Yeah.
When does Series 3 start?
Great question. You tell me.
So absolutely being considered.
Okay.
We're listening to feedback. We're looking at the impact of the badges that we've got out there. We're looking at sort of the density of badges as you're scrolling through the marketplace, these sorts of things, and taking all of that into consideration. And so we're definitely considering some of the options and some of the things that make the most sense for what badges are to us. And we'll see where that goes. But that's kind of where we're at there.
Okay. Second question on that. We talked a little bit earlier about, demarcating, maybe that's the wrong word, but like indicating in some way that like this came from a player, right? He gave it to me type of thing. Autographs. Heard it mentioned a couple times, haven't heard it referenced in the last month and a half or so, at least from anyone official. I say official, but like anybody connected to and in the know at Dapper. Is that something that Dapper and NBA Top Shot are working on, or is that something that other external third parties are working on?
It is something that has been, there's been some work done by external third parties, which obviously anybody can do. It's a blockchain, and that's awesome. And that's some of the cool power of it. Obviously there's a certain like level of trust and authenticity that could come with Dapper Labs implementation. And there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of opportunities to get that sort of concept really right. There's obvious ways to do it, and there's less obvious ways. And I think something that like very simply just translates what you can currently do with physical sports cards and brings it to Top Shot isn't something that excites me very much. And something that like feels digitally native, that feels like it's like, of course, that's how Top Shot would implement this, is something that does excite me. But of course, when you start talking about stuff like that, you do start talking about longer time frames. And while we're able to capitalize on some of these opportunities, like Mike Conley's message, our focus right now in the short term, with most of our resources, has of course been on the things that are most pressing for the community. Things like the withdrawals and some like multi-accounting and fairness of drops and site stability, marketplace stability. Like all of that has to be in place before we can really devote the resources to bring some of the grander visions to life, while still being able to quickly strike while the iron's hot on certain opportunities.
Makes sense. So you talk a lot, I've heard you reference kind of collector experience, maybe not tonight so much as I have heard you in the past talk about collector experience, and it's something that Jacob hits on every time in office hours. Right now, what is the biggest barrier for you guys in terms of like making collector experience more positive, more broadly? Is it the withdrawal stuff, or is there other things that you're thinking this is priority one?
Well, when we're talking in terms of priority, it definitely is the withdrawals, and it is just making sure that stability is there. And we've hit the point where we're pretty good with the stability with the current like volume of people on the site, but we've seen how quickly that can like suddenly 2x, 4x, 10x, and we want to make sure that like the next time that happens, we're not caught off guard, or at least do our best to try to get to that point. And then we'll see how the site actually handles it when the day comes. So that's really important to us, because there is no collector's experience if the site is down, right? If everything's breaking, or if like you don't have trust in the platform to be able to collect moments, then that's not going to be a good collector's experience. So all of those are the priority, but in terms of what's in my mind is certainly it's around helping people feel the value that they get from collecting moments and owning collections and curating collections. To me, that curation is really important, and that concept of Top Shot moments being your way of expressing your fandom for a lot of people. Like the specific moments that I choose to collect for like have a certain meaning, especially in the card collecting world, they call it your PC or your personal collection. Like you might have a bunch of again, in that world, you might have a bunch of like rookie cards that you've invested in because you believe in the player, but ultimately you're happy to sell them later on. And that's a factor. But when we talk about the collector's experience, it's really about those moments that you're adding to your collection because they mean something to you, or like they say something about you as a fan. And I really feel like we have a bunch of opportunities to step that up and help people express themselves in meaningful and interesting and fun ways that'll encourage people to like really think about their personal collection in that way.
Interesting. I think that's cool. And I think right now the only way to do that is showcases, right? Or at least to some degree. And there's some interesting ways that people are, doing that. But I think you mentioned in the private chat here that there was something about like pack drop and QID stuff for sort of the probably to direct and address the fairness within pack drops as a part of the collector experience. I know for me, and I'll pull the question up, like for me, the pack drop pieces like that kind of got me hooked. And I know it keeps a lot of people hooked. I have had really awful luck recently. I think I've gotten one pack other than the pre-order pack in the last month and a half. Influencer packs are not a thing. Not nope, at least not to these two guys.
I got like number 4,000 though for the pre-order pack. Thanks for giving me a great number when it didn't matter.
Great idea.
I just had to get that one in there.
Right. So and I know, so to set the stage with this question in general, like I think a lot of people see, not just in the, some of these people that have multiple accounts are not like touting that in the Top Shot main Discord, but I'm in 10 Discords that are smaller focused. People see a lot of the buying and selling on eBay type stuff. So how does that look for you guys in terms of investigating this, number one? And then number two, I think the second part of this question, like are you guys actively thinking about, for people that maybe haven't gotten a pack, like how to implement something that gives them a leg up to make sure they have that experience?
Yeah. So for that second part first, like as far as like, do we have data about the QIDs and tracking pack luck? What I'll say is we've done a number of like after the drop audits and like after the fact investigations just to make sure that like everything is happening the way we expect it's happening. Like it's really important that the pack drops are fair. And we know that the way that randomness manifests feels anything but random, especially to individuals, like yourself, it doesn't feel random that like you're never getting access until the time it doesn't count.
Yeah,
right?
The anecdote matters apparently.
Exactly. And so we hear all that and we want to make sure that, we want to make sure for our sake and for everyone's sake that the drop is actually fair, and that some people do have really good luck, like they have a string of successes, and so we do investigate and just make sure that everything is actually happening like the way we expect it to. And it has been the case in every case that like when you look and you're like, well, how did this person get like 5 packs? Well, that's survivorship bias, right? Somebody's going to get 5 packs, and when you just look and see who got 5 packs, you're going to find somebody. And we confirm that is in fact the case, right? It's just statistical analysis.
Who's the luckiest person? And what's their Twitter handle? Can I please have the information?
I don't have that handy, but I'm sure
I don't want to out anybody. I won't say the name, but I remember a certain person who got hit on both 2 times a stress test of only 5,000 packs, and I was like, "Whoa, how does that happen?" Like we all were like racking our brain. We did the math. It was literally like a 0.0008% chance or something to hit twice inside of 5,000. But I mean, like to your point, like randomness is what it is, and I know it sucks for anybody who misses out. They always feel like it's, there's some person out there saying, not you, it's going to be that person instead. But I mean, it's randomness.
Can we please remove the planned tag from this feature?
I think some of our community's having some fun with that one.
Some of us are not having fun with this.
It's MGLE.
It is a difficult. It is difficult to fight this battle.
Get rid of this.
I'm team MGLE, but
Good.
I'm also team Steph, so I don't know.
Those are not mutually exclusive concepts. You can be team Steph and still be team MGLE. But yeah, so of the 9 things that are currently planned from the feature upvote, European wire transfer, very important, right? Calling things Meagles, definitely not important. If you guys need any help prioritizing, I'm free Tuesday nights. We can go through the queue together. I'm more than happy to add my collector input.
Well, Plunge, what is the one thing on that list that you want to see, beyond like European wire transfers?
Well, not European wire transfers, but Chugs and I talk about this a lot. I think figuring out a bid system matters a lot. Yeah. I think in actually a really interesting example, and I know you guys can't comment on marketplace dynamics and like where the prices are and everything, but something, and just for your benefit, from yesterday that happened that is really interesting, that illustrates this point and why I think it's important really well. So immediately following was the John Moran. I forget if it was either John Moran, it was the LeBron Seeing Stars challenge ends, right? And there is, in the 20 minutes following the challenge, a massive, massive sell-off of the challenge rewards. And there is, I think, partially due to the cooling and the way that the flow transactions process. And there is essentially a massive undercutting that happens, that it's a race to the bottom to sell off the moment for whatever, to get your listing to be shown first. And there is, I think, essentially is a wealth transfer from people that are trying to get liquid to people that know what's happening. And right now, what happens is when then the listings go down, which is what happened yesterday, and the marketplace had some issues, and no one could list anymore, and you could only buy, the price went up. Right? Like the low ask obviously like went up and went up and up, because there were plenty of people willing to buy that particular moment at the level that it was at, up to, I think it was like something like $1,200, but there were plenty of sales in the like $800 or $900 range that happened in the immediate aftermath, because there was this massive rush to the bottom. And I think that, certainly that a bid system may not solve that immediate sell-off thing. That's education. That's people like, hey, have a little patience. Like, don't try and just like undercut each other and all that. I have an idea. But yeah, we've been talking about this a lot of like, what does that potentially look like for us to have a situation where you're not looking at things just in terms of what is the low ask for this thing? It's how can I make an offer on something that I'm interested in, even if there isn't a low ask for me to go and buy, which makes a lot more sense on some of the rarer pieces where I'm after a very specific thing as opposed to just the cheapest version of this very common thing. But we've been talking about that a lot, and I know it's a challenge to get right, but I think that's probably the most important feature that I would consider like valuable to me as a collector. Chugs?
Yeah. I guess just to kind of chime in on it. I sort of am a disciple of Daryl Morey's view on kind of how this works. His whole thought one of the things that he thinks is that everything should theoretically be for sale, which I don't necessarily think that's like one thing that needs to be done in the big picture. But I think rather than like a live bid system, some sort of ability to have kind of negotiated deals for particularly high-end illiquid stuff, where if somebody's saying, I'm specifically looking for the LeBron number 23, this particular moment, I want to find that user and I want to make them an offer. And then there can be a counter offer or whatever, and a deal can either be reached or not. That's a separate thing. That would be more longer term potentially. For the near term, what I think that would go a long way, and it's my pinned tweet right now. It's this big thread about just seller behavior without really knowing where buying behavior is, just knowing what lowest ask is. And Daryl Morey said it on the First Mint pod. He said, in a down market, or when, I don't know, when prices are going lower, if all you're seeing is lowest ask, it can sort of be this death spiral, because all people are kind of seeing is lowest ask. They're not really seeing where the bid potentially might be. And so to me, my kind of idea is a simple solution, or relatively simple, I would think, is when somebody is going to list something and the pricing helper is pulled up, rather than just seeing all of the lowest asks, there is maybe a couple. It doesn't even have to be super robust. Just what was the last sale price? What was the last 20, with the average price of the last 50 sales? Or what was the median price of the last 3 days? Something like that, where that way, and I pulled this as well. I said, look, if you had a moment that you wanted to sell, doesn't matter how much it cost. You could say you pulled it. You could say it cost you whatever amount. If the lowest ask is $100, but you also knew that the last 5 sales were at $150, where are you listing it? And most people said they would list it at $150 or higher. And it's because they knew that information. And so I think it's more of an education thing than like some fundamentally problematic, issue with, the market. And so that was kind of the core, thought that I had, where education is ultimately going to be the key to making that move smoother. And I thought that was that doesn't involve creating some bid, a whole new system of bids and like a StockX model or something. That's literally just information. We have this data. We're just going to make sure it's prominently featured for you when you're listing. You're aware of it. And so that's something that, of course, pump my own bags. I think it would help a lot just for the collective. But
Touch on analytics. One of my favorite Twitter followers, if you don't follow him, he does a lot of the higher level macro analysis and micro analysis on individual sets and market cap over time and stuff. I think what's wrong with this, and to answer your question, like with the, this is a maybe tongue in cheek question. My answer to this question is that this, letting people shoot themselves in the foot creates a bad user experience. And
Correct. It's 100%.
It creates situations, I think, where people, can take losses in ways that they probably don't need to. And I think, at least in my opinion, it creates a situation where, lack of knowledge of a particular thing in a particular time can create, really wild fluctuations in things that don't need to be wild fluctuations. And not to say that stability is the most important thing in terms of the way the market moves, right? Like the economics of this are such that it's like, much like any other crypto project, there are wild variations, especially early beta stuff. Like that happens. But some of the people that feel really jilted and got burned really badly on particular things, with just a little bit more information at your fingertips, even if it's not a scroll bar down, because you can see sales history on these moments, but even if it's just not in your visual field, like it does affect us.
When you're selling, it's not there, right? So make no mistake, and I've been clear, it's not like this isn't information you can't easily find on a moment page. But when you're in the pricing, when you're in the pricing helper specifically, and you're right there, that's where I think it would have its most impact, best impact. That, again, that's just my opinion, but that's all I'll say on that.
You all mentioned the dreaded B word. I do think that's one of those things that we are learning from the beta, right, is opportunities and areas where sometimes surfacing simple information that, as you say, is readily available, but just making it available in a certain spot can really help people make smarter choices or more informed choices at any rate. And so by that's one of those things that in the beta, it's really helpful for us to keep an eye on and be willing and able to experiment with, because it's possible that people, like the way you describe it makes a lot of sense, that people will see the information and make proper decisions. And when you do your Twitter poll, you frame it properly. But what we found is sometimes when we provide information to people, like the rational expected thing is not how they react to that information. Right? Very weird things happen. And so while we're in beta especially, it's very possible for us to investigate trying out something like that, seeing how it works, seeing what the unintended consequences are, and then possibly pulling that back, adjusting it, updating it based on how people react. And it's a lot easier to get away with that in a product that, as long as people realize they're in a beta, which is why we do keep repeating it, because you're in a beta, then we can do that. And so that's the only caveat that I would add to the suggestion. But I totally agree that's a very interesting thing, and it's something that we have been discussing internally. We appreciate these amazing Twitter threads. We pass them around the office, and we have great discussions about them ourselves too.
How much? So what kind of entry fee to the private Dapper Slack are we talking about?
You just need to launch a kitty calc, and then you're in.
Plunge, we got our work cut out.
We got our work cut out for us. Yes,
we got to breed a LeBron and an Anthony Davis and prove to him that it yielded something.
We're not going to breed humans. That's not going to happen. We're not breeding humans. This is not going to work.
Can we settle one thing while Plunge and I are on, and we got Alan and Austin? Plunge calls them momies. I call them momes, bro. Which one is it?
Neither.
As long as it's not cards.
Putting them on the spot.
The third answer to that poll was neither. You guys are idiots.
Yes, the third answer to the poll was you guys are idiots, and that one. Because the Mome Bro, man, he's got opinions, but Plunge calls them momies.
So Alan and Austin, I think so. If I'm not mistaken, you guys. I won't make you answer that question. I will save you from that question.
All right.
You guys were collectors of Top Shot, and I assume, if I'm not mistaken as to how it works now, you are no longer actively able to participate in collecting. Is that correct?
So that's the current situation. We put a pause on everything for Dapper Labs employees, sort of as things started blowing up, and as more people started joining, and some of the valuations started happening, where we're like, okay, like it was really helpful for everybody to understand and be a part of this product, especially in the closed beta and early on, and getting to experience it and have that firsthand experience, considering it was so new for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Ourselves and the collectors in the product. Now there's a lot more information and resources out there. We can actually learn a lot from tuning into shows like this, which wasn't available, early on. So that
it's debatable. So how much to learn from the show, but
so things are different than they were then, and also just kind of higher stakes. And we just want to make sure that we take things slow and that we're very careful and thoughtful. And I expect that there will be some level of collecting that will open up to Dapper employees again. And personally hope so, because I love the moments. I love the product. We designed the thing that we wanted to collect, and so it's difficult not being able to collect and see these awesome moments that we're putting out. And even if the policy comes around that allows us to do so in a way that the community feels is transparent and understands and agrees with, there will still be some limitations there. But that's the key, right? Is coming up with a policy that the community by and large understands is for the good of everybody, because there is still value in being able to experience the product. as a collector, and being able to experience the pain of missing 10 pack drops in a row, for yourself, that sort of thing.
when we get to the outside of the influencer pack problem and we get to the dapper employee pack problem, wait, how many of these you get? So that actually brings up the next question. So in preparation for this show, I literally went back and watched a couple of the old YouTube videos that I had watched of Top Shot NFT with Jason and Lennox, and then I think you were on another with Vegas Finds.
Yep.
You did which was crazy, like going back and listening to you then, which was awesome, by the way. Highly recommend both for both shows. If folks want to go watch that, if you just type in Alan Carr Dapper Labs into YouTube, it'll probably pop up. But at that point, you cracked a pack on Vegas Find stream. It was an early adopters pack, and you pulled an Alex Caruso. So it was funny that you brought that up. Do you still have those packs?
I do. So I have a bunch of early adopters packs. There's a period of time where we were releasing a bunch of these base set packs, and what we would do is we'd release the packs out there and let everybody know in like Discord and whatnot for the base set releases. They weren't like pack drops with the big notice yet, but at the time, like, it was still possible to like get it. There was no queue. It's just possible, like, go buy a pack, buy another pack, buy another pack.
What?
And
what is that?
I know,
I've never
right?
heard of that.
and so what I would often do for, like, there's this little window. I don't know. This was maybe release, I'm guessing, like 15, 16, 17. I could be way off. It's been a while. It's been a decade in Top Shot years. But so what I would do is like wait a few minutes, and then like join in the fray and try to like refresh the page and try to see if I could get a pack and have that experience. And for a while I was able to get like 4 releases in a row, I think, just one pack, and leave them unopened, and just like having those on my packs page like just feels pretty cool to like have that. It's a relic of a very specific time in Top Shot history. And so yeah, I do currently still have some of those unopened packs, including some early adopters packs that like, for those who don't know, the early adopters packs were not limited. Like, we were actually able to do the thing that we had designed, which is that we promised we'll make as many of these as people want. If you buy them out, we'll just mint more and put more in the market. And we did that, right? So those early adopters packs sold out. We released more, and then the closed beta ended, and with that we ended the early adopters packs, and we basically said, these are the last ones. Come and get them. And so like I was telling everyone who would listen that like these are really special. And when you're there in the moment, it's funny because when they're just sitting there and everyone has access to them, and like, it doesn't feel like these are really special, It feels like, and the same way that people who joined in January and like we're looking at some of these moments on the marketplace, right? They were available for anyone to get for a couple of dollars. It didn't feel special until everybody started buying them and they weren't no longer available for a couple of dollars. And I just like personally felt like I understood that this isn't like some short-term thing. We're talking like 10 years, 20 years down the line. How awesome is it going to be to have these packs? They say early adopter. They were only available in this time period. Like, anybody could have bought them, but to be the person who's like, you know what? Yeah, I am going to buy them.
Causes me anxiety. I couldn't do it. I can't do it. No way.
Yeah. So
I can't even leave my like lunch packed for the day. Like if I brought a bag of lunch, what is that? Can you guys hear that?
No. You must be your chickens.
Oh no, that's what it is. I have to. Something just came out of my ears. I think it was Schiller's chat or something. Anyway, so Alan, I saw in the chat the side. It sounds like you need to go soon. Do you have time for one more question? I think Chung's had.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
I got one. one more that it looks like it's more or less from the chat. They're asking about the Seeing Stars and the All-Star sets. And I guess, is the plan for them to be permanent? And if you can't necessarily ask that, I would say if you had to pick one, or not pick, but if one was more likely than the other to be a annual set, so a set from the game itself versus a set of just these are the All-Stars and it's moments that they have, what would be more likely to be recurring, if it or would both be?
Yeah, I would say that based on the feedback we got, and we definitely listened to the feedback. Like I would say that the plan that we had made sense for this year, again, minus the way that it was communicated in advance or not communicated so much in advance. It seems pretty clear that like the idea of the Seeing Stars packs is really great for people, and having that opportunity where everybody has like a decent chance to get an all-star and to recognize all of the players who have that accomplishment. And Austin, like you really had some great thoughts about that, like just like why it's important that this set exists and is inclusive. To me, I would say that the Seeing Stars is the more important one. But Austin, did you want to share some of those thoughts about like what it means, like why of course there has to be the Mike Conley Seeing Stars, now that he made it, that sort of thing.
Right. I think like especially this was right around the time that players really started kind of gravitating to Top Shot, opening packs, and I think one of the most revealing parts of this process for me has been watching them and watching like just how excited certain players get, and the reverse side of that is players being like, well, where's my moment? So it really put in perspective how like the plan, and it's already started to happen, is to make Top Shot such a part of the basketball landscape, right? So I think just for like posterity's sake, being able to make sure that players that do hit this milestone, like that they're like recognized in a consistent manner from year to year. And when we found out 48 hours before that Mike Conley was going to be into the All-Star game, we knew we had to figure out a way to get him in there. We had to get kind of creative to do that. And I think you look at, not every player makes the All-Star team like 10 times in their career. And
it's a very small number of people.
Exactly.
Very small.
So doing that with the All-Stars was important. And obviously, even with the Rising Stars, if you look at the bottom of a Rising Stars roster, like, you're going to get players that might, you never know how long players are going to be around in the league. So being able to just do everybody justice, I think, is something that was a priority for us. And it's certainly something we'd want to continue to do, as years pass. If 5-10 years down the road, people are going to be able to be like I've got literally the All-Star team, whatever form ends up being the recurring one, like to be able to have those and have a record of that was just important to us.
Yeah.
That's such a cool answer, honestly. Like a light bulb just went off in my head over that with Seeing Stars, and going back to you're kind of telling the story of the season through Top Shot, and people talk about badges, but the Seeing Stars moment is the All-Star badge moment of that player in a sense. It just this is literally popping off in my head as
there are collectors and players, right? This is for the players too.
Well, the funny thing is I mean, I don't know what kind of feedback y'all have gotten, but there's been definitely some kind of shade as the Seeing Stars was the set nobody needed or asked for, because we got an All-Star game one, but the way it's when you really kind of rethink it, and look, I got the Team LeBron. I did the Team LeBron challenge. I was all in from the jump, so I was committed on it anyway. But when you put it that way, and when you kind of think about this is about narrative and culture and telling a story, it's just totally completely a light bulb just went off in terms of the motivation behind Seeing Stars. So I think the answer you gave is mind blowing, literally, for me just now. So that's awesome. Very cool. Well done, Austin.
I'll add that one thing that I can imagine us doing for the All-Star Game style in the future, when if you were watching the All-Star game and you watched like Steph Curry going off, you watched Giannis just like unable to miss, and then you watch Dame with the game winner, and then in the post-game interview, press conference, calling it a top shot, saying people will want to collect that moment. Like, those were so clearly moments. Those were so clearly things that needed to be a part of this platform. But also, they are in an exhibition game. They don't necessarily make sense in some of these more core sets. But I think what we'll probably do is explore opportunities to release at least some of those moments that just have to be collectible, but maybe in a different fashion that doesn't feel like
duplicative.
Yeah, duplicative. I still don't really agree with that. I understand why people feel that way. I totally do, and we are absolutely listening. But to me, like, there's just such a difference between that moment that represents like a player earning their way onto the All-Star game, and then like their play from the All-Star game.
Yeah,
exactly. Like those, like. The thing about Top Shots is you're not collecting players. You're not collecting, I got a second Giannis, right? No, you're
the moment matters.
The moment matters.
The moment matters.
If you really have internalized that, if you really understand and feel that, like, I don't see how you can see them as duplicative, right? Because they aren't in any way. However, we do hear you, we do understand, and so we'll look for ways to do that in a way where we can have the moments can matter, and that the marketplace, can not feel like they have bad decisions there. And again, I think a lot of that does come down to communication, and that's something that we're going to own and do a lot better of. And we're talking about we're talking to a lot of people that should help.
I mean, couldn't have said it better myself, Hunter. Momies matter.
Moms, bro. They're moms.
Momies matter. So with that, Alan, Austin, thank you so much for taking your time tonight and joining us in the Plungeon. We would love to have you back whenever, especially, I don't know where you put it on your calendar. Send me a Google invite whenever for the Tuesday when you can actually talk about hardcore. So we'll let you go with that. We do have someone else that's here to talk a little bit more about some marketplace analysis stuff, but chat, thanks everybody for chiming in with the questions. Alan and Austin, keep doing the great work that you're doing. And if there's anything that we can do to help you other than the people in the chat, please don't hesitate to reach out. I know that I'm certainly willing to make myself available for anything that you guys might need. So I really appreciate the time.
Thank you all, and I'm glad you all got a chance to meet Austin.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah,
I feel like I know you now, so I can DM.
Great surprise.
Thanks. I appreciate you letting me crash your fun. So
yeah, no, it wasn't a crash at all. It was great. So thanks so much, guys. Everybody in the chat. Go, like I said, I'll send the Austin and Alan's Twitter accounts. If you guys haven't followed them already, please do so. There's Austin's, and then I'll send Alan's as well. But we will talk to you guys at some point in the near future, hopefully.
Thanks.
All right. Have a good rest of your day or night. Bye. All right. So,
that was awesome.
I'm like
Austin literally just blew my mind with the Seeing Stars thing. Like, just the way he was kind of reframed. And I was like, you know what? Because we talk about badges all the time and how they can be a value add. And it's like, what if you did an all-star badge or whatever? And it's like, you're like, well, who needs a badge when like this is the badge? Like, it's the Seeing Stars moment.
Yeah.
Like it just was kind of like, oh my gosh, like that's it. And what's funny, because I was like a big critic kind of the fact that they had both initially, because I thought Seeing Stars was sort of like I think it was the pre-order and Seeing Stars at the same time. It was just too much too much shovelware, as they call it in like gaming worlds and stuff, like too much just, filling the bottom out too fast, right? To catch up with a massive surge in users. But yeah, the way they talk about it from like a curation standpoint and again, like telling the story of the NBA, like I love looking at it that way. I just I'll just leave it at that. I mean, that got me kind of really, encouraged.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, I think when the marketplace being down on All-Star Weekend did not help. at all.
Yeah, no,
Like
the marketplace,
that was brutal.
the technical difficulties made it a colossal,
Yeah.
disaster. Like,
was a mess.
I don't want to say disaster, but I mean, it was
a mess.
When your market's not open the entire day after the All-Star game, that's pretty freaking bad. So, yeah.
So it's really late, but we're going to bring on the person. We were supposed to have him on 45 minutes ago.
Bring him.
But Alexander Champ, I'm going to add him to the stream now. How are you doing?
What is up, man?
Welcome to the Plungeon.
I made it.
You were listening that whole time, right? Like
I was listening the whole time. Yeah.
Okay. What thoughts? Like, I know I was sitting there and I could see, like, in the background, I can see everybody across the bottom. And I was sitting there, I was like, man, I kind of want to just bring him up so he can ask any questions that he had, but just don't want to get it too cramped. But like, what initial reactions from
my first reaction is I think that we should shout out Alan and Austin for being so transparent and willing to like lend their time on a Tuesday night. And I don't know if he's East Coast or West Coast, but it's late on all timelines. So I think it's really impressive. They're willing to, lend their time, and they're willing to be transparent, hop in Discord at 11 p.m. Pacific time at night. You don't really see these things in any other companies. So, like, for one, I'm just really impressed with their willingness to, like, communicate with the community. And, in regards to kind of, like, the business of Dapper Labs and, what they should do with badges and moments and, circulating counts and this and that, I don't have too many thoughts, in regards to, the Dapper, how they should operate or what they should do. I focus more on like the technical analysis of the moments. And, at the end of the day, I have full confidence that Dapper Labs is going to figure everything out. So, I think that one takeaway from that discussion regarding the badges, if everything has a badge, then
nothing has a badge.
Then nothing has a badge.
I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So, in order for them to kind of just keep their value, I think it's important to make sure that, they're paying close attention to what moments they badge up. And, what moments are worthy of a badge. So I like that they're, paying close attention and they're kind of keeping those things top of mind.
Yeah, I completely agree. Really good takeaways. So I'm glad you summed it up, because I was sort of like spinning a little bit there, trying to get as much in and from questions that I had and questions that I've heard from the community, from both in the chat and then in all the Discord groups that I'm in. I'm really sorry that I didn't ask the question for I forget who exactly asked it, but someone said like make sure to ask when my account value will be back to what it was on 221, which I know they can't answer, but should be they obviously can't and don't have any intention of commenting on marketplace analysis stuff. What I would love to be able to like sit down with their economists and like whoever that they're talking about for like, here's how we manage the economy and like what are the conversations. I would love to be a fly on the wall in some of those discussions. But before we dive any further in, for the folks that are still here, that I think we have 130 or 140 folks on Twitter on Twitch, and then 30 or 40 more on YouTube. Who are you? And I know who you are because I follow you on Twitter. But like, Alexander, like, can you give me the Spark Notes version of like your story with Top Shot, who you are, what you do, and sort of introduce you to the audience?
Absolutely. So my story with Top Shot. Let's say I actually got started in Top Shot on January 16th. I think I was watching
2 days before me.
2 days before you. All right. And I was going to say, actually, it feels like yesterday that I was watching LG's 3 introductory videos to like how to get started in Top Shot. And I very specifically remember watching those. So I was watching an NBA game and my brother shoots me a text and he's like, hey, Alex, you should check out, this thing called Top Shot. I know you've been, investing in crypto for a while. Obviously we both love sports. And so, I check it out and he texts me later that night. He's like, so what'd you think? I was like, oh yeah, it's a cool user interface. Like, yeah, this will probably be cool. And then I took a look at it again later that night and that's when it clicked. And since then I haven't really looked back. So it made sense almost instantly for me. I grew up collecting Pokemon cards and I have about still, I'd say 25 to 30 Beanie Babies downstairs. So
do you really?
Yeah, I really do. So I kind of grew up, collecting different things. So it was something that really kind of caught on instantly. For me, I understood that, it took a while for the concept of like digital currencies to catch on for like the journal community. And so I was also aware that, this is a really new and novel concept. This is something that's really cool, but it'll probably take some time for people to catch on to digital collectibles. And then I think it was Bale's post rolled around on, I think, the 17th, when we saw a crazy bull run like right at the end of January, and then the last bull run in February. So clearly I was wrong. People caught on quicker than I expected. But, back when I started, that was when you could buy base packs, Series 2, Release 5 and 6 from the marketplace pretty much whenever you wanted to. And that's really how I got hooked. I started buying 10 packs at a time. I'd open up 10 at a time, and it was just like when you were a kid opening up, 10 packs or so. And I kind of got hooked like that. And then I realized
one point I want to make though, and for anybody that came in after that and like doesn't have any concept of that, even then when there were $1 moments on the marketplace and there were like, even some of the stars were only $20 or whatever it was, like that was still fun. Like it was super fun to crack these packs that even they had shit in them, like in the grand scheme of things. It was still super fun. So if anybody's worried that like, oh, hey, when packs get back to like, there's not a bunch of awesome stuff in there that's going to 5X my money or whatever. Like for a lot of people that came in right at that point, like it wasn't just because we were, you're making money hand over fist. It was like, this is awesome to do. So if they ever get to that point, like if they allowed me to buy, even if they were totally trash, the pre-order packs, if they allowed me to buy 10 of them, even if I knew that they would only have like $9 worth of moments in them, I'd still buy them. So
100%.
I don't know if you feel the same way.
No, you hit the nail on the head. I remember when I was opening packs, LeBron's out of 7,500 moment was $23, right? And that was like one of the most valued moments, right? So the EV was like $12, $13 from a $9 pack. I mean, you'd have to open 3 or 4 to break even. So it was never about the money when you first got started. Obviously, a few weeks later, when
things have changed.
It changed a little bit. But it was never about the money. It was just purely for just the enjoyment of opening packs and kind of reliving that fun childhood experience. And this was back when intangible.market was really the only tool that you could kind of use to
Veerman's tool,
to get deeper insights. And even then, it was really just, I think, only evaluating your account. You couldn't actually like see price history on moment. I think evaluate.market was the first one to kind of release their version of a graph. And so I actually started, just to kind of give you a quick background story on how I kind of got involved in trading. I was in college and I was a promoter at some bars and clubs in Santa Barbara, if you guys are familiar. And
are you a UCSB gaucho?
I am a gaucho, man. Yeah, through and through. Yeah, I'm a diehard gaucho.
Cool.
So
cool. I had a lot of friends that went there.
Isn't Jim Rome like the most famous alum from UCSB or one of them?
Steve Aoki, he's an alum as well. So kind of depends on who you can.
Whether or not you like.
I guess Steve Aoki probably goes over Jim Rome. But Jim Rome's pretty big too. But I'd say Steve Aoki.
That's a good question. That's a good Twitter poll. Who's more famous? Jim Rome or Steve Aoki?
Jim Rome or Steve Aoki?
Everybody in the chat. Hit us with the Jim Rome or Steve Aoki. But anyway, so you're at UCSB. You're doing promoting stuff.
Yeah, I was doing promoting, and it was a lot of fun. And I was just in this really lucky position where I just had some extra cash, and I was trying to figure out what to do with it. And I was trying to figure out like, how do I invest it? What do I do with it? How can I turn this money into more money? And you're just a college kid with no real, knowledge or experience. I was a communications major, so I'm not necessarily an economist or, a finance background. So I started actually learning, how to trade. I started this course on baby pips for free and just kind of started trading like commodities. I think I started trading oil and gold. And then from there, I experimented with fiat currencies as well as some stocks, and then ultimately got into crypto actually in 2017. So that's kind of like my history with trading. I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years on and off. But when I'm talking about evaluate.market, they had some graphs, but at the end of the day, I'm a candlestick reader. I like to read candlesticks. And so it was great, but it wasn't quite getting the job done. So when I saw add more funds, candlestick charts, that really kind of changed the game of Top Shot for me. And that's when I maybe for better or worse, started to kind of view Top Shot as the stock market for NBA players, right? And so I, thought if I could apply some of these concepts in trading and technical analysis from crypto and from fiat currencies and commodities to the world of NBA Top Shot, then maybe I could, find an edge or find some inefficiencies or find a way to, find EV essentially.
Right.
So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, Admiral Funds is in the chat, and very public disclaimer on all of this for everybody, not just this is not, none of this, it constitutes investment advice, especially with I think Matt from Admiral Funds was on last week talking about this initially, which I appreciate you responding to in regards to some of the stuff brought up that we're going to talk about tonight. That it's an informational and educational thing. It's very difficult because of the sort of the how young the market is and how little volume there is relative to some of these other massive stocks that you can sort of apply some really programmatic approaches to. But that doesn't mean that you can't apply some of those concepts to thinking about and looking at trending within the marketplace. So for anybody that is a dum-dum like me, because I literally have no idea what technical analysis is. And when I look at your charts, I'm like, cool, there's colors and stuff. Can you give anybody like me who doesn't know what technical analysis is, at least the Spark Notes version of what it is that you're talking about? And if you want to share your stream or screen or anything to talk through anything, I think there's a little button that says share screen, and then I can add it to the stream if you want to.
So great disclaimer. First of all, I think it is definitely important to be careful with those, because Lord knows none of us want someone to come back saying, "Hey, trading advice and I lost $5,000." So great disclaimer. Also, their data is based on lowest ask instead of actual sales data. I think they are working to develop some tools to kind of make that a little bit more reflective of actual sales data. But explain it to you like you're 5 is essentially what.
ELI 5.
So
Plunge tells me that all the time.
I say, hey, dumb it down, Chugs, because I don't get it.
yeah, exactly. So I would say that technical analysis is a methodology of analyzing previous price history and price activity and trends to identify opportunities to trade that are low risk and high reward. So that's the, explain it to you like your 5 definition. A little bit more kind of advanced approach to technical analysis is it's being able to observe the tug of war between the bulls and the bears, right? Essentially, that's what a chart is telling you. And that's what candlesticks are telling you. Every single red or green candlestick is telling you a story about a tug of war between a bull and a bear. And technical analysis allows you to get insight into human psychology to find reactive price zones that humans react to, right? And I say zones because they're not precise, right? It's not a tell-all be-all. It's not a perfect methodology, but it can allow you to make more informed buying decisions and to essentially allow you to reduce your overall risk when buying and selling in any marketplace or with any asset class. And I would love to show you some graphs, and we can do an exercise or two, but I just wanted to share my thoughts on what technical analysis is.
And I think it was really well put. And there's a couple people in the chat, I think Minted Moments popped in and said, that's so well put. I agree. I think the language that you used was very appropriate because, as someone who's not in crypto or in stock markets or looking at this, the first time I ever saw I'd seen a candle chart before. I had no idea that they were called candles until someone talked about it in the context of evaluate.market. I think Christian, who runs E.M, he was like, yeah, we're going to work on our candle charts. And I was like, cool. Okay. Don't know what that is.
Right.
Sounds great. Don't ask me for feedback. What's that?
Selling candles? I said you're going to start a storefront on Etsy selling candles?
Yankee candles.
That was Plunge's reaction to that.
Did you ever, this is going to be dumb, Chugs, did you ever buy your wife one of those candles that had a ring in it?
No.
That it burns down and then it's got a ring. Anyway. Okay.
Cool concept, though.
Cool concept.
But no, Plunge, I think
I have not done that.
So I think if you share your screen, there's a little button across the bottom that says share, and then it like will add your, whatever screen or window or application that you want to the things for me to select from, and then I can add it to the stream.
Let's see if we can do this.
It usually works best from Chrome. If
right.
you're trying to share
I'm on Chrome. It looks like we're, but what you were saying, I think, is spot on. You were saying that you see these charts and you're like, okay, those are some cool colors and some lines, but what does it all mean? And I think that, by and large, that's how a lot of the community feels, not only about, just these charts, but in terms of being able to understand, what the market is doing. During this bear market, it's really easy to think that, the market's in a free fall, right? And that it's never going to end. But what technical analysis allows you to do is to kind of find the different floors. And I know we talk about the floors a lot, but instead of just guessing based on, your feeling, it actually shows you like psychological levels where humans have decided that these are reactive price zones, right? So we can take a look at a couple charts. This is a Bitcoin chart here. And we're actually looking back at the chart from 2017. And I just wanted to kind of show you guys this chart because the crash and the rise is not dissimilar from the rise and the crash that we've seen recently in Top Shot. And you can
so just to be like abundantly clear, this is Bitcoin's price against the US dollar in early 2017.
Yes, exactly. Bitcoin pegged against USD 2017, and looks like the chart ends in March 2018. So this is a couple years back. This is not Bitcoin's recent price history. But I wanted to share this example specifically because it's fairly similar to the rise and crash that we've seen recently as of Top Shot. And I want to show you how you might have looked for, support areas or demand areas in the Bitcoin crash, and how you might be able to use a similar methodology in the NBA top crash, right? So simple concept, I can go over this real quick. This is kind of, trading 101 is the concept of support and resistance. The best way that I can explain this to you is imagine you're standing up and you drop a bouncy ball. When it hits the ground, that's support. When it bounces up and it hits the ceiling, that's resistance, right? So you can think of these floors and ceilings in a similar manner in the trading world.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is they're called support and resistance. I actually call them demand and supply because support and resistance is really precise. And in trading, you need some sort of flexibility to absorb losses because charts aren't precise. And so I call them demand and supply zones instead of support and resistance lines because if you rely on a specific price line or a specific price, then you're going to get burned a lot of the time. So just thinking of them in terms of zones or areas just allows you to have some more flexibility and kind of just, correct your mindset to understand that you might have to absorb a little bit of losses. So I say that with showing you that these are some demand zones that are blue. These blue bars are demand zones, right? Mm-hmm. And a demand zone, or otherwise known as a support, is an area where price had struggled previously in the past, right? So getting back to the struggle between the bulls and the bears. And so if we take a look, at Bitcoin in April and May of 2017, where my cursor is here, you can see that this is when the bull market kind of started, right? And we had a clear run up to right around this $3,000 price. And price struggled right around here for about a month or so, maybe even 6 weeks, right? And so we saw price action retest this $3,000 zone 3 or 4 times. And then ultimately, in July of 2017, it was able to break out from this. And then it reached kind of the next supply area, which then became a demand zone. And so I show this to you because I want to point out that you see this areas where it struggled with this $3,000 price, right? And it created a little bit of a top. And so that it was a supply zone, but when price broke through it, it then became a demand zone or a support line. Does that make any sort of sense?
Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense to me. So it's like these like psychological barriers basically, and it can be either like it struggles to get above, or that can be like it would struggle to get below if it cracked through. So question that I have, like, is there, I mean, is there commonality in why or how those things break through those zones? Is it usually just like, overwhelming market sentiment, or is it like news cycles that break those things? Or
That's a great question. I would say and it's different in different asset classes, right? So I would say that it's probably different in stocks than it is for crypto, than it might be for a commodity like oil or gold, and it's probably different for a currency like cable, which is the British pound versus the USD. I would say for an asset class like stocks, it relies heavier on fundamental analysis. So that's news releases, financial reports, things like that. So there might be, a trifecta where it's struggling with a supply area or a resistance area. And it's also showing some sort of bullish indicator. And let's say a company releases, their financial report, which is positive news, right? So that trifecta, it's struggling at the supply / resistance. It's forming a bullish, reversal pattern. And then there's this positive fundamental news that could allow it to break through. In crypto, I would say it's less pointing to these fundamental factors like these financial reports, obviously, because these are companies.
Bitcoin doesn't have a balance sheet.
They're not generating revenue or anything like that. So yeah,
well, Bitcoin's not real, right?
But when Coinbase announces they're going public,
Sure.
that does have a positive effect on the entire cryptocurrency market. In addition to that, there's other signs that you can look to, like divergence. But honestly, staring at these charts for years and years kind of gives you, honestly, an insider's advantage to kind of understand
seeing and recognizing patterns,
flow and recognizing the patterns that might be hard. But I tell people, if you don't feel confident about a trade, don't trade it, right? Because there will always be another opportunity to trade. So just kind of talking about supply and demand, support and resistance, right? One concept that I want to make clear is that what was previously supply can then become demand, right? So when Bitcoin was at $1,700, this blue demand area, this would have been red, and it would have been a supply area, and it would have been a resistance, because none of this price history on the right ever existed, right? And so when it broke through, it changed from supply and a resistance to support and demand.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Total sense. Yeah. Okay. So and I know I mentally right now I'm starting to do the gymnastics of like, oh, I see this with this type of moment, or like, I've seen similar types of things with like the first LaMelo run up with like the rookie moments when things broke out, like following the LE news and everything. Like it just had this massive run up, and it was struggling to break through specific places and prices, but now there's no way that's like a floor or a resistance area more broadly. So I'm already starting to like, my wheels are turning.
You're starting to get it. Well, I'm happy to hear that, man. And I drew these other two demand zones, right? Because I want to help you guys understand, or more so show how using these previous price history can help you not predict, but help you kind of predict where price might rebound in the future, right? So in this predicament, let's say we're looking at Bitcoin, and we know that it ran up to 20,000, and it's clear that we're in a bear market right now. It dropped down here to the $6,000 price, but we want to know, like, when might it stop falling, right? And so this kind of allows us to find these areas. So I can say that at this demand zone here, it might stop falling. At this demand zone, it might stop falling. At this demand zone, so I kind of have these different price zones that I have mapped out to start tracking Bitcoin, and to start looking for signs of reversals, to start looking how it reacts to when it reaches these price zones, right? And so when I start to show the rest of the history, you can clearly see that this demand zone where this price struggled and then it came back and retested here, it was valid throughout the rest of this market, right? So we can see that in June of 2018, it retested this demand zone. And then in August of 2018, it retested it again. And then it struggled on this demand zone and consolidated for months on time until it finally broke through this demand zone, right? And had a major breakthrough all the way down to what essentially was the next demand zone at this $3,000 price range, right? And then we actually see it consolidate here for a while. And so taking a look at this previous price history can help you find areas in the future where the price either might rebound or it might retrace. So taking a look at this $3,000, I'll continue to drag up the chart. We can see that it consolidated from November 2018 to about March, almost April of 2019. So we're talking 5 or 6 months of consolidating right at this demand zone of around $3,000, right?
Sure.
So
no, this is great stuff. I feel like I have a much better sense for this now more broadly. So in terms of like pulling this stuff forward, how does, I've certainly seen the charts that you've pulled and kind of marked up on your own from Add More Funds. Like, is this specific type of dynamic happening on moments right this minute? Like, are there any that you're particularly tracking that are good illustrative examples of this type of thing that you're seeing?
Right now the volume in Top Shot is so low, and I mean it's so extremely low that you're really not seeing any price action or price history. There are some, if we look at the larger time frame, there maybe are some opportunities approaching, but you're not seeing a lot of the patterns that you want to see, that you would really feel comfortable with kind of pulling the trigger on some of these things, right? And so your earlier question was, is how does it eventually, break through, a supply area or resistance area? And I just want to kind of show you guys an idea of what divergence is. And we're getting a little bit advanced here, but you might have heard of divergence in the past, maybe not. But this is the RSI tool, right? And so some people use the RSI tool to identify trends and how the market's trending, but I use it to identify divergence. And in my experience, divergence is one of the best tools to identify a price reversal in combination with a strong demand zone and maybe a bullish, price pattern, right? And so you can see here that this price action was consolidating pretty much sideways, right? Meanwhile, on the RSI at the bottom, it was making higher lows and higher highs. And so this is what we call divergence. When the RSI is making higher lows and higher highs on a higher time frame like the daily chart, and we see strong consolidation and price action on the daily chart, this tells me that there might be an opportunity for this market to reverse, right? So that's kind of one that I use. Go ahead.
Run it back again with RSI, like define and just kind of what that is. It's relative strength indicator, right?
Yeah, relative
what
strength
it is.
index.
Yeah. So what is that really showing us again? I mean, I see it visually that it's obviously kind of, you'd suggest it means things are moving positively, but what's the nuts and bolts of it, I guess?
The nuts and bolts of it. So I'm trying the textbook definition I might struggle with because I actually don't use it for the textbook purpose. But I think the textbook definition of it is used to identify like a trending market and to kind of identify like spurts of volume and like relative strength. And so like when volume increases, helps identify, when a market is trending, et cetera, et cetera. I'm actually not an expert on the textbook purpose of it. I actually use it for kind of something like I mentioned called divergence. That's, a concept that I learned from a trader called ICT, Inner Circle Trader, back in the day. And it kind of just allows you to, I guess the best way to explain it is that, if this is showing you that price action is making higher lows and that this is going up in price, and then the actual price chart is showing you that it's consolidating, then something's not matching up, right? There's something that's not matching up, something that's not in alignment, and it essentially can kind of tell you that something might be poised for a breakout soon. So that's just kind of the way that I use it. I'll look up after this call the textbook definition for RSI.
Yeah, and I think a good thing to do in general, if you haven't already, and it might be buried in your tweet or your Twitter profile, is like things that you found super helpful that were good resources for you as you are learning about not necessarily Top Shot related stuff, but crypto markets and trading more broadly. Bring that forward. I know that the type of person that this stuff tends to like people latch onto, and the type of person are generally interested in this type of stuff too, especially when they can see the stuff more broadly. I know personally, like I'm seeing this and I'm like, oh, this intrigues me greatly. Even if I just want to learn more, and I don't think anybody here expects you to be the like, the econ professor being able to explain it all. But anything that you find after the fact, please feel free to shoot on Twitter, and I'll certainly retweet it.
Will do. Yeah, I'll absolutely do that. I think that's one of the really cool things about this community is how people are really eager to learn about the data tools that you guys are putting out there on Twitter, learn about some of the analysis tools, and just kind of really hone in on their skills. So I'll definitely put that out there on Twitter. So I wanted to take a look at this moment, right? This is Steph Curry's, what I think is one of his cooler moments aside from the no look three. It's his base S2 out of 7,500. And we can kind of take a look at this and maybe kind of mark this up in real time. And I can kind of walk you through my thought process when I'm looking at a Top Shot chart and kind of what I look for. And that might kind of help you guys understand how you might be able to apply some of those concepts that I was showing in Bitcoin to something like NBA Top Shot. So another disclaimer, none of this is financial advice. Again, this is based on lowest ask data. It's not actually based on like sales data, but my theory is that for S2 commons that are highly liquid, there's not a huge difference between the lowest ask and the most recent sale. It's actually like pretty really close actually. So I actually don't really think that matters too much, but still want to put that disclaimer out there. So we are using a tool called Sketch Together. This isn't as pretty as TradingView is, but you got to do
it does its job.
It does its job, right? So the first thing that I'm going to look at when taking a look at this chart is for supply and demand zones, right? So we were talking about those before. Supply being essentially resistance, demand essentially being support. So if we can think about the struggle between the bulls and the bears, right? There's one area that really comes to mind when I look in this chart, and it's the $400 price area. It's clear that there was a definite struggle between the bulls
on the way up,
and that it hit that 400 price range, and it looked like it maybe retested like 350, and then it consolidated on here, and then it was able to break through, right? So when we were talking about what might make things break through, this might have been LaMelo Ball tweeting that, hey, what's Top Shot? What's Braun get off Top Shot, right? So that might have been the fundamental event in Top Shot. We can think of fundamental events kind of differently here. It's not a news report. Maybe it's a tweet by an athlete, right? But there are these kind of catapults that kind of catapult the market to the next level.
Yeah, this is the end of the week where everybody told their parents and friends
to get an account.
Yeah, and when Norris had it on ESPN, and Gary V tweeted it, and it was like a massive floodgate, and it also happened to coincide with the peak of Bitcoin and Ethereum, or like the two-day trailing end of Bitcoin and Ethereum. So there was a bunch of very, very, very wealthy Bitcoin and Ethereum people that were looking to pull some
move money.
Yeah, and diversify their newly found gains.
Hey, crypto's on the way back up, so hopefully that'll happen soon.
Yeah, pretty good days. Looks
exactly. So taking a look at this, right? So we saw that there was a clear price history, and mind you, with only we're working off 2 months of price history here. It's limited in terms of what you can do, but you got to start somewhere, right? I'm not going to wait until the market's fully matured in a year to start tracking technical analysis. I think it's best to do it now, and then when the market's matured in a year and that we have high volume, that it'll be even more valid. So my kind of first thought when I just drew this box down here in this demand area is that it's clear that the market did struggle here for quite some time. Actually, it looks like from March 6th to March 5th, maybe up until March 20th. So there was a clear 2.5 week time frame where the market was consolidating at this area. So if I had looked at this chart, let's say on March 18th, and I didn't have this price history from March 18th to now that tells me it continued to drop lower, what would I have thought or what would I have said? I would have probably said that price is consolidating at this point right now. And if you're looking to get out, it might be a good time to get out because there's another demand zone even lower that the market could come down to, right?
Mhm.
That's kind of like the ultimate goal with my Twitter posts is to kind of give people insight into where price was before, where price is now, and where price could go in the future, whether it be up or down. And in order to help them, make more informed, trading decisions, if I can tell them, that, hey, price is consolidating at this demand zone at $400 right now, but we have extremely low volume and there's a chance it might go down to its next demand zone at $160, then someone might kind of react differently, right? Or they might make a different decision on whether or not to pursue that trade. So really what it, technical analysis does is what I say is it allows you to make more informed kind of buying decisions. So I'll draw out this next demand zone, and we see that this is kind of around this $170 price area. And, ironic enough, we actually see that price did kind of drop down here, and it retested this area, and then it kind of has been consolidating ever since, right? So I think your question was, the concepts that I'm seeing in, traditional chart and traditional technical analysis, does that apply to the world of Top Shot? And the answer is yes. But I'm still waiting.
Yeah, the yes, but like there's some caveats there.
But I'm still waiting to see like more indicators of like bullish reversal patterns, and I think that that's a matter of just the volume being so incredibly low. Because I noticed that when the market actually did start to crash on February 21st and 22nd, there were quite a few indicators that this market was actually preparing to crash. So those were like bearish price reversal patterns, double tops, heads and shoulders, volume divergence. There were quite a few things that you could see.
I was told to ask about an iron albatross. What is an iron albatross? Is that a thing? Did someone pull the leg on me?
The Schwab, it's that Schwab commercial where like people are talking about all these crazy technical terms and it's like nobody actually uses them. But like, I had an iron condor the other day on my Starbucks stock. I did a triple double butterfly short swap the other day.
No, I hate to make jest or make fun of it, but yeah, I've literally no idea what you're talking about when you say like head and shoulders and stuff. I think it makes sense once you show me the candle charts and everything, where you've got we explain those things. But one of the things that got brought up earlier, maybe 20 minutes ago or so, that I told Politicos I'd come back to was sort of and I apologize that this is going over your face right now. Let me fix it. Sort of like we have right now, and I think I know the answer to this question, but right now there are not just low volume, but there are market dynamics and things within Top Shot that are like significantly affecting or we should assume are significantly affecting price action generally. For example, with withdrawals, right? Like right now it is captive money and you can't exchange it for fiat, right? Like for most people. Right. So, is that something that, that you're taking into account with some of the stuff that you're looking at? It sounds like you're more, I'll just leave it at that.
No, that's a good question. It was interesting. I think his name is Matt, right? The creator of Add More Funds.
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, I think when we were chatting on a Twitter thread a few weeks ago, just kind of about the impact of marketplace shutdowns on the charts, and they do have some sort of impact, right? So that's why we are transparent that this data isn't perfect, but it's a starting point, right? And so in terms of withdrawals, I guess my thoughts on that, I don't necessarily take into account like withdrawals. I guess what I would say is that for one, there is a thing as Dapper balance, right? Lots of people can withdraw to Dapper balance and they can hold their Dapper balance, and essentially it's not in the Top Shot ecosystem. And I mean, I don't have any data on how many people are holding Dapper balance, but I'd imagine people,
they won't share that.
They won't share that.
Yeah.
But people that really want to cash out, I'd imagine they probably sold some of their moments already. If not, like, why? And I've actually been wondering this the last couple of weeks. Why would you sell right now? Like, I really have no clue why anyone would sell at these prices right now. I'm not selling anything. I'm only buying like.
This is not financial advice, but I feel similarly.
Look at this chart, right? The last time that you would have had to buy to be able to sell where you're at right now for a profit is on like February 17th or 18th. And so I would say 80% of people were not here on February 18th, right? 80% of Top Shot users. And so are we saying that 80% of people are selling for a loss right now in these moments? I know this is a different conversation. It's a different discussion, but it's been blowing my mind kind of the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, don't even get me started.
We both, Plunge and I are both.
Oh my God. And I know there's a lot of people in the chat tonight earlier on that were like, hey, stop telling Alan and Austin to like make it easier for dum-dums.
Yeah.
Like I saw a lot of that and I couldn't bring it up. I wanted to, but like, you know, there are a lot of people in Top Shot that don't have any sense for what's actually happening. And they're like, and don't have, and I'm one of them to some degree. I've learned a lot because I listen to smarter people than me. And I pick up stuff, but like, it's still fundamentally like incongruous to me to like, okay, you just took a fat L for no reason, or at least it seems like no reason on the surface.
It's not realized until you sell it. A loss isn't realized until you sell it, guys. You don't. It's not real until you sell it. Can't say it. Say it one more time, maybe.
Someone needs to do some sort of like case study on like the last 3 months of Top Shot. There has to be a documentary on some point.
I hope so. I hope I get invited to be a part of it.
I think the last 3 months have been crazy.
If anybody starts a documentary, let me know.
I think one of the psychological or behavioral finance aspects of it is that a lot of people want to have dry powder to move on to the next trade, and they'd rather just take their L on whatever didn't work out immediately to move on to the next, so they could like throw more dice at the craps table again, kind of, right. or have, as I've called it, or as the Moan Bro has called it, more pack gap to have money have money for packs. And so the idea is like, I'll take this L on this challenge reward or whatever. So I have, the several $100s ready in my Dapper to basically try to get a lottery ticket for a rare drop. And I mean, not investment advice, but like that's a statistically bad trade. Like just the probability of it working out for you is not very high. But people like new things, and it's a behavioral and a psychological thing where people like having liquidity. I mean, that's just it, because people like having options or feeling like they have options. And when you're in a moment that's at a loss, you feel stuck or handcuffed to it. So maybe you feel like, punting it is the lesser of two evils. I personally disagree with that, like 1,000% disagree with that. But market's gonna market,
Literally, I mean that doesn't even take into account like 5% Dapper fees, and something that I think a lot of people aren't really talking about that should is the freaking 28% capital gains tax. So it's like every single note you sell has a capital gains tax.
Don't educate the people on the bad decisions.
We'll have an entire show on that.
Oh eventually. My God. Yeah, we need to.
We're not at year end 2021 yet, where people actually have to worry about their taxes. But
it's going to be February or February 2nd.
Every event in Top Shot is tradable, and I mean,
lost harvesting for the win. That's all I'll say. Lost harvesting for the win.
Question though, Politicos. Yeah, to answer your question, do I like take that into account while I'm doing technical analysis? And the answer would be no. Technical analysis is like a methodology that doesn't account for fundamentals, right? So technical analysis or technical analysts believe that fundamentals are already priced in to the charts, at least in like traditional markets like commodities or fiat currencies or stocks, right, or crypto. We're under the belief that these financial releases, these press releases, these news reports, they're already priced into the market. Even things like what's it called? On Friday, I forget what it's called. There's this event that happens once a month. I think it's called NFP, non-farm payroll. Yeah, that's what it's called, which is a crazy
employment report. It's the employment report, essentially. It's the first Friday of every month. comes
First
out.
Friday of every month, exactly. So, it has a pretty crazy impact in terms of fiat currencies and how those react to it. But even, in non-farm payroll, technical analysts are under the belief that this stuff is already priced in, and that, if you're good enough at analyzing charts, that you can still essentially find opportunities and kind of ignore some of those fundamentals. So that's a traditional market. I guess that I'm applying some of those concepts to withdrawals and things like marketplace shutdowns. So that, to answer your question, would
Makes
be,
sense.
but it's important to pay attention to, or at least be aware of.
Yeah. And again, I want to, for anybody that may have joined us in the last 10 minutes, like, again, this is not financial advice. We are just talking about different ways to look at and analyze the market and make decisions or potential decisions based on things that you're seeing that have corollaries in the real world. I think we all recognize the limitations of Top Shot in volume and in some of the other external factors that prevent it from being a true market. So just keep that in mind as a whole. I'm sorry that I'm laughing, like snickering, listening or looking at some of the questions and the comments in the chat. You guys are on fire tonight. I know it's kind of late, but this was my favorite. This is not financial advice, but like you should probably pay your taxes. And Chef Lizette, like I've seen you in here all like the last couple weeks. Yes, we can try and talk about taxes before we can try and talk about taxes before the fourth quarter for sure.
It's early Q2, so you have plenty of time.
Look who's in.
Oh no,
Dr. Applesauce has arrived.
Do you want? Oh man, God. So this is Andy 8052. If you didn't know, this is his old, I don't know, Twitch username or something, Dr. Applesauce. So hey,
up,
Andy. Yeah. So Andy, question for you. Did you learn anything from Wilson Chandler tonight? Other because I popped in for that. It was pretty good for a few minutes. It's my team fight tactics user. I don't know what team fight tactics is. Anyway, back to you, Alexander. So we were talking about this with the Steph Curry with the kind of support zones and the resistance zones and so forth. So I guess what's next? Like, what are you looking forward to? What are there tools out there that like, hey, they don't exist yet and they need to in order for more people to be able to take advantage of this or to like look at things more broadly? What are you waiting on?
Oh man, I think that Add More Funds is a great resource for the community, and I'm really grateful for their platform, man. Like I have to tell you, I was just kind of sitting on my hands, honestly, in January and a lot of February. Kind of like waiting to create content because I knew that Evaluate Market was going to release their candlestick charts at some point in the future. And actually, shout out, they just did a couple days ago. But when I saw Add More Funds, I was really blown away, and I was like, all right, this is my time to shine. I think that, in my Twitter bio, I actually have, ask not what NBA Top Shot can do for you, ask what you can do for NBA Top Shot.
It's very, very presidential of you.
Yeah, but it's funny because I actually look at like Top Shot as like from like a position of gratitude, right? I'm like really grateful to be a part of this community. Not only the community, I mean, like, we don't really talk about the money, but it's changed a lot of people's lives, right? And we'll just keep it at that. I'm really grateful to be a part of this community and to be a part of the platform. And I wanted to look for like a way to give back. And I was, obviously you should play to your strengths. I'm not a data guy like you, so I wouldn't know the first place to start.
Apparently not anymore. Thanks a lot, Greg Murray.
But, my experiences in trading, if I could
maybe
share some of these concepts from trading to the community, then that might be a way that I can give back. So that's why I was really excited to see Add More Funds. In terms of what I'm excited for in the future, I would say more kind of robust technical analyst tools, right? So, for example, we were looking at Bitcoin, and I think that we showed, how I look at the RSI and divergence, right? I would love to be able to use some sort of tool to be able to identify divergence in the NBA Top Shot market. Volume is a potential tool to identify divergence, but the volume is so incredibly low that you can't even like use it as a starting point, right? So things like the RSI tool to identify divergence would be really awesome. This is getting really kind of advanced, but if I could use things like the Fibonacci retracement tool.
What is that? What is a Fibonacci retracement tool? What? That's not a real thing. You made that up.
It is
I guess
100% a real
You
thing.
made that up.
No, it is a.
No,
Sounds
it's
like
real.
that what Charles Schwab Alcatraz thing that someone said earlier. But it's a tool that allows you to kind of identify.
Fake words. Erroneous. Erroneous on all counts.
No, but there's a lot of tools, right? So, so like this, right? And we're kind of getting off the rails here. But honestly, a lot of this stuff I don't even use in traditional markets. But there are a few things like the Fibonacci retracement tool, RSI. It'd be great if I could actually mark up these charts and add more funds as opposed to having to go to Canva or Sketch Together to try and mark up these charts. So I think that it'll all come in due time. I'm sure some other players like evaluate that market. Wait, what that person say?
Yeah, Wade's Wade's
Is
yeah, Wade's in the chat.
our
Apparently
Aussie.
he's off work.
Daily life, man. Yeah.
Do you understand? What I mean, I think the most important thing here that we need to know is when the Street Fighter font will be more widely accepted in charts.
I'm sorry,
It's criminal that folks don't appreciate the script Street Fighter font. I just had to get that out there. Hopefully it'll get more acceptance.
I need another beer.
Oh man,
I'm about to.
Man,
I'm about to,
I know. So
I'm about to
I
pour
say,
some.
I say this all the time. Like if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I feel like I'm in the right room, Alex. I feel like you're in the wrong room today.
No, man. You and Chugs, man. You and Chugs. No, man. I'm happy to be in the presence of you and Chugs, man. You guys are some of the gems in the community.
I really appreciate this. Yeah, these graphs are great, and actually, shout out to the Evaluate.market guys as well. They just released like a live analysis candle tracker as well. I don't know if you saw that at all, but
I did.
It's very cool. It's a little less, I guess, fleshed out in the full form as this is right now. So I think I saw that Patrick Williams. This might be a pinned tweet that you had talking about this particular one. Is that the one you're?
Yeah, that was actually the one I was just looking at, and I was actually going to show you guys that. What is an example of like, I talk about these price reversal patterns, right? Like bullish price reversal patterns, bearish price reversal patterns, and mind you, they're not standalone tools, but when you find them in combination with things like supply zones or divergence, and you have a trifecta of like three signals or indicators that are pointing to reversal, then that's when you can feel confident in a trade, right? And I think it's important to note that even no matter how confident you feel in a trade, you can still be wrong, and that's why it's important.
Yep.
Absorbing losses, or in the commodity or fiat currency world, using things like a stop loss or even stocks, right? But I just wanted to show you, this is kind of an example of traditional bearish like price reversal pattern. And there's kind of two different, right? And I talked to you about a head and shoulders, right? When you think about, what does a head and shoulders looks like? It looks like, a valley with a peak and then another valley, essentially, right? And so just like your head and shoulders make up on your body. And we can see here that there was kind of not only a double top at the top of here, but there was also head and shoulders. So just taking a look at the hourly candlestick chart, this is one shoulder right here. And then it made a clear head, and then it kind of came down to this similar price range, right? And then it made another shoulder, right? And this is honestly my favorite bearish price reversal pattern that I've used in traditional markets. And it actually, applied here in NBA Top Shot market as well. I think you're laughing.
I'm so sorry. I'm looking at the chat, man. I'm like learning about head and shoulders. There are people, I'm not sure if these are real things. Like, what is this? Like, are these real?
I think the chat's like partially pulling your leg right now, partially dropping some real terminology. So I think ignore the chat for now.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pause the chat, or I'm gonna take the chat out of my field of vision. All right, head and shoulders. I'm back with it.
Right. It can kind of help you see it. Honestly, if I don't really think I was paying attention to these back when the market reversed. Hindsight is 2020, right? If we all were able to kind of make these decisions in the past, we'd all be millionaires. But it really kind of made it a clear, bearish head and shoulders pattern. But in order to see this, you have to zoom in on this price action, because as you'll see, if I just take a look at the 6-month chart and it resets, then while you can still kind of see these things, it's not like as clear,
present. Yeah.
as clear night and day. So that's why it's also important to take a look at, kind of different, time frames and stuff like that, right? And then if you take a look at the daily time frame, then it'll show you something a little bit different as well, which you can see. But before we wrap up here, there's one moment that I want to go over, and this is the LeBron James 3, is because this is one of the most popular moments on Top Shot.
Personal favorite.
A lot of people.
The gold bar of Top Shot.
It's the treasury of Top Shot.
It is, right? And it's a pretty accessible moment for LeBron, and it's highly liquid as well. So all those factors make for a great moment. And so I just kind of wanted to. I know we've been looking at previous price history. So this not financial advice. How would I make a decision for the future? How do I use this to inform buying decisions, to know when I want to go long or to pull the trigger, right? So I shared this on March 29th, so a little bit over a week ago now. And I found some interesting things, right? And that there was this clear struggle, this tug of war between the Bulls and the Bears at this $500 price range, right? And there was also 500 actually. I actually pointed out that it was from around 420 to around 500, right? And as I mentioned earlier, that's why we like to call them zones. There's another one right around kind of that, let's say like 100, 150 to $200 area. And so taking a look at LeBron, I mean, he's been trading kind of, in this pendant for over a month now, for almost 6 weeks. And so I wanted to try to get some insight. Are there any trends that are forming, any breakouts that, could potentially happen? Could this demand zone provide any insight into where price potentially could go? And, knowing, when I wrote this, that we're still really in a bear market. We still have really fairly insanely low volume. Knowing that, the team is still working on some things like withdrawals that, this trend is most likely going to sustain, right? And so if this trend is going to sustain, how can I find a good buying opportunity? Where's a good chance to get in? I know that I want to get into a LeBron James no-look 3 before the next bull run, but when do I actually pull the trigger? So what this allowed me to see is that around this like 420 price area, this is where the next demand zone, and that price, since it's trading in this kind of bearish channel here, it's most likely going to continue trading and to continue to touch the bottom of this trend line, right? And so just knowing that bottom of that trend line kind of coincides with that 420 price range. And so that's kind of the, we don't have a trifecta there, but we have at least 2 factors that we like that are showing us that there's maybe an opportunity that's going to present itself in the near future. So that's why I shared that the other day. And then if you actually take a look at, LeBron James no-look 3 now, and if you kind of take a look at where price is trading, it's really kind of crazy how valid technical analysis has held up, at least for this specific moment. So if I can add more funds to load here, I might be able to show you guys a thing or two. Let me see if I can get this to load. But really what I want to show you guys is how it really retested this $420 price range and then saw an almost immediate price rebound right up until like the $600 price range. And it's still trading in that channel. So it could very well retest that and it could yield another opportunity. Of course, I'm having some issues with add more funds as I'm trying to get this to pulled up. So bear with me here.
Is that a bear market joke?
It actually wasn't. It could have been.
Damn.
Could have been.
Wade's popped in while you're pulling that up to say, asking about the importance of volume with the price moments.
Yeah.
Price movements, not moments, excuse me.
I think that it's very clear that during the last bull run that there was also a bull run in volume as well. So while, let's see, is this still loading? All right, I hope this can load. If not, I might rely on you to actually load it, Plunge Father. It looks like we're having some issues here. So maybe if you could just pull it up in the background in case Hide More Funds isn't working. So, as you can see here, take a look at volume on February 22nd. I mean, it was pretty much non-existent on February 10th. And then, around the 12th, it started to peak up. and the 18th it started to peak up, and on the 22nd, I think this is showing that there was $100,000 of volume in one day. I want to say, if we had Matt on here, he'd be able to answer that question more specifically, but it's either 1 day or 1 hour, right? But there was a clear run up on volume that definitely coincided with the bull run.
Yeah, let me look. So this is the one that's trading at 550 right now. So I'm looking at sales volume, or is this the low ask volume?
Hold on.
This is low ask, right?
Yeah, that's the lowest ask volume.
Okay, and I'm looking at the 1 hour range for the last like 6 months, and then
So I actually might be able to pull it up here.
yeah, that's an hour bar.
It's an hour bar? So
Yeah.
that's hard to believe that there was $100,000 in volume in 1 hour.
52 sales on February 22nd at 4 p.m. Between 4 and 5, there were 52 sales totaling $99,707.
In 1 hour.
Yeah.
My goodness. Can't wait till we get back to those days. So, I think that if you just take a look at this, you can definitely tell that there is, the higher volume does coincide. So there is some sort of correlation there. Again, with a lot of this, it's still fairly experimental and speculative just because we have limited price history. But if we can start to kind of track these things as a community and start to try to observe these anomalies and how price reacts to these types of things, then we can start to, kind of create theories of how it compares and how it stacks up to the traditional market. So, as I was showing earlier, I was trying to show you this channel while Add More Funds was taking some time to load, that, it hit this, 439 price area, right? So I think I created this chart right around here, and then it traded down to right around this 439 price area, and then it came back up and it's consolidating, and it could very well trade back down to that like 430 and that $420, right? So if you take a look at this, right, it's fairly similar to, what I shared on Twitter the other day, right? So that I think that it could go back down, could go back up, consolidate, go back down. And so, whether you buy it at, $450 now, or you buy it at $450 in a week, I think that could be, kind of a demand zone. So that's just kind of the way that I look at that moment. Obviously, not financial advice. Your time to get in would have been like 2 or 3 days ago. So don't try and rush in right now. If it does,
Again, this is not financial advice.
for the 10th time. If it does,
This is a very clear. You're talking to yourself, right?
A couple guys who like top
Just a couple
shots
guys
and-
chopping it up, not financial advice.
Yeah, exactly.
But-
So it could very well retrace again. But I look at it as trading in that channel, and you can kind of use that to make your own decisions of whether you want to buy, whether you want to sell, or whether you want to hodl.
Yeah. I want to say thank you. I'm like nearing the end of my capability to stay awake and not like go slap happy on all this.
We're gonna have to wake up with our kids in like 15
know.
minutes, probably.
Yeah.
That's how
I don't know,
it works
Alexander,
when
if you have
kids.
any kids, but Chugs and I both have like the same age
Too little.
kids.
Yeah.
You guys have your hands full then, man. So how do you manage, like pack drops? I've always wondered how people with like a family and like
Not
manage
well.
pack drops from like 2 p.m. on a Saturday, like on your phone, okay?
All on a phone, man. Phones
Oh, yeah.
are magic. Just do it all on your phone.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah,
sick.
I feel fortunate that I'm not in Australia. I'll just put it that way. Wade.
Yeah,
Like
and you're
the
lucky
3
that-
a.m. pack drops have to be way worse than whatever
Yeah.
I'm dealing with.
His pack drop is like in 2002 when we were watching the World Cup and we'd have to get up at like 2:45 to watch US play a game or something. Wade's is like having lunch during that time. Like, oh, this is nice.
This is wonderful.
But now, so it's tables have turned.
I'm sure it's better now with the queue though. I mean, I can't imagine like, trying to like click refresh or something for like, I mean, back to the Cool Cats 2, Series 5, Series 6 days for a couple hours on end. So the queue system definitely like makes the experience better from everyone and just kind of like makes it so you don't have to, I mean, I don't know if you guys remember this, but like you used to have to keep your computer open.
Yeah.
And, like refresh like for hours on end at a time. And I mean, if you were serious and if you wanted to pack, then it's just kind of was the name of the game. And looking back at it, it's pretty crazy to believe that we were doing that, but it's just how it was back then.
So funny enough, I joined January 15th, and there were packs like readily available. I bought one. I could have bought like 100, but bought one. But anyway, with the queues, I don't want to take too much credit or any credit, but I did when the queue stuff or when pack drops were like a total shit show. I actually had DM'd Roham and I told him, and this was my experience with the PS5 drops from Sony Direct and the queue system that they created. And I said, hey, you really need to take a look at how they do things. I was just getting acquainted with Plunge actually at the time. And I told Plunge about it. And he's like, you need to like tell somebody, like they're kind of like clearly what they're trying to do. It's like not working. So I DM'd Roham and I told him, I was like, hey, I was like, Sony with PS5s, they make the queue. And I mean, this is exactly how I described it. They make the queue where there's about a 30-minute lead time before anything actually drops. And you can join a wait room and you wait and there's a timer. And once you're in there, you're assigned a random spot in line. Now, PS5 with PlayStation, they didn't give you a number. They just gave you like how much time you had left, and you just had to hope like you hit 8 minutes to go, and that'd probably mean you're okay.
Right.
But with this, they gave an actual number, and I said, and also they would give updates like a little box that says we've got X amount of packs ready. Or like I said, not going to take credit. All I'm going to say is I DM'd him, and like a week later, it was pretty much exactly what we had said.
It wasn't one of the 40,000 people that like.
It was totally me.
It's totally. Yeah. No, just take credit for that one. Might as well.
But I mean, it does work. I mean, you can't say it doesn't work. I mean, they've dropped how many packs?
Oh, it works great.
And it's been without a hitch.
Many people are saying.
Top shot.
Many people are saying.
I'm just trying, man. I'm just trying.
I was doing a full-time job before with like having to keep your computer open because like. People also have to realize there was no such thing as stress test. There wasn't an announcement in Discord. It was random, and I mean completely random. So like people now have it really nice, really easy. I think that's the interesting thing, or at least the really cool thing about Dapper is how quickly they implement suggestions from the community. So things like that queue, I think that I'd imagine that the community that challenge badge kind of came from community suggestions as well. It seems like they're really receptive to kind of, hearing the community suggestions as long as, they're fair and equitable for everyone, that they're, fairly receptive to hearing these and also are, really quick to implement. So their team works quick. Shout out to Alan and the Dapper team.
Yeah.
They're all awesome.
My favorite is like, if, I think they would love to just develop cool, awesome features instead of having to develop roadblocks. Like remember when they had like, okay, we're going to put a regulator on this. Okay. We're going to make it so that it doesn't sort by low ask anymore. Okay. We're going to make this like,
yeah, it's like a restrictor plate on race cars. Everybody wants to go fast. And it's like,
I just want to go fast.
yeah.
It seems like ancient history on some of this stuff, but yeah, it's bizarre. So Alexander, I have to ask you before we break, I assume that you have a sizable collection or you have at least a collection that you care about. And you've made some purchases on the marketplace. You're not just like talking about this theoretically. What is your favorite moment that you've picked up?
Oh, my favorite moment, man.
Or that you felt like I got a deal on this because I did the legwork.
A deal? Well, hold on. Are we talking the financial decision that worked out, or okay. Favorite moment, price
Both.
aside, or favorite thing where you feel like you got a deal?
Yeah,
answer the question.
So, I would say my favorite trade that I've made, just from like a financial standpoint, is James Harden's first moment. I bought it when it was at $799, and I think it's it got up to $8,999, and I think now it's probably around $4,000. So that's like the best trade that I made, and that was actually when I was using evaluates charts to kind of look for good buying opportunities. So that's probably the best trade that I've made. James Harden's first moment on Top Shot. In terms of my favorite moment, man.
What's your a moment in your collection you're probably not going to get rid of unless like someone made you a Godfather offer on it?
Let's just say I'm definitely a collector in the Top Shot game. I love first moments love them. I think that they're going to hold a lot of value for a long time. So that's like my real goal, is to collect first moments. I would say,
Speaking my language.
I just don't do. I like.
Which one is he gonna? Which one are you gonna say? Because I got
What are you gonna
one
say?
too. I got
so
a
I would
first
say,
moment. Which one's
I would
yours?
say Kawhi's first moment, just because I'm a huge Clippers fan, and it's a dunk. It's not like the craziest dunk in the world, but it's his first moment. I'm a Clippers fan, and he like hangs on the rim for a second too, and he just kind of exerts his dominance over the rest of the crowd.
I like that moment a lot, and I strongly considered getting it at many points in time.
Have you? Yeah, I love that one, man. Big Kawhi fan and big Clippers fan. Another obvious one is the Vince Carter moment. I think that one will be a keepsake that I'll want to hold for a very long time. I grew up watching Vince Carter in the dunk contest as a kid, and so for me, that moment kind of means a lot. Just kind of, what he means for the sport of basketball. And just kind of his legacy, and how it's really his only moment that will ever be on Top Shot. So you're gonna have to pry that out of my cold dead hands to get a hold of that. But that and Kawhi's first moment are definitely my two favorite, with James Harden's first moment being my best trade.
John Morant dunk on Baines. That's the best first moment that exists.
Oh, is that?
Don't at me. That's Ja's first moment. The dunk on Baines. That's the first. That's the top one.
Okay, do you have that one?
I actually do. That was the first big swing that I took. I split it 50-50 with a buddy.
Nice.
And that was the first kind of like, we're gonna see what this Top Shot thing's all about.
Okay.
Purchase.
So as
a Grizzlies fan, and the narrative behind it, it's it's like a minute left in the game. He ices it by dunking it on Baines. It's awesome. Okay. And John Morant's awesome too. So.
Yeah, John Morant's awesome, man. Big fan. Yeah, his and Zion's first moments are both pretty awesome. I think they're quite a bit better than probably the S2 rookies' first moments for the most part. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Well, yeah, because the S2 rookies moments were all from their first game.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's
were like trash moments.
Ty Halliburton's like some rando jumper or whatever it is, and Zion's is the one where I've said my big thing on just like the moment mattering. Like if you showed this to somebody who's never seen basketball before, like what would they think? And like the Zion block is the one where it looks like a cartoon or something, like the way that he just swats the ball and like 20 rows back.
It does. Yeah. Zion block, the Anthony Edwards Rising Stars dunk. I think that some people don't talk about Ja Morant's alley-oop.
That's plunge right there. The Anthony Edwards.
Anthony Edwards, pump my Anthony Edwards.
He's all about it. He's all about it.
Okay, yeah. Anthony Edwards is the man, man. I remember watching that live on TV. So when you watch the moments live, it makes them all the more special when you see them hit the marketplace. I haven't pulled the trigger on that one yet, but might look to do so.
I highly recommend it. It's going to go to the moon.
It is.
69-420. So funny. Oh,
probably not.
That's like my favorite joke right now. It's so childish. So childish. All right. So it's been almost 3 hours, and there's still, between Twitch and YouTube, there's still over 100 people watching us, which is ridiculous. At almost midnight Central. I'm going to be really tired tomorrow. So, Alexander, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insight and your knowledge and introducing us to the idea of technical analysis, both on your Twitter feed and here tonight. I saw a ton of stuff in the chat. I have a bunch of DMs in Discord. I've seen a ton of things on Twitter. People chiming in, like people are hungry for more information. And I think we're doing a good job of trying to get the right folks in front of people to talk about this. So if they're, like I said, I'm not going to give you homework, but if you could, and you have time at some point in the future, and you want to share the things that, you found most useful in terms of resources for, learning technical analysis, and, not in trading in general, that you'd like to share with other folks, I would happily retweet that to everybody out there, to share it out there. because I think it's valuable information across the board. So I really appreciate you coming on. And Chugs, I know you probably echo the same sentiment with both Alexander and then certainly Alan and Austin from before. And also big shout out to everybody in the chat tonight. Like, I don't really have active moderation happening at any point, and like it's been very civil. There's been a lot of like good vibes
Pretty
and
much
good
good
conversation
vibes.
too. Like there's been disagreements and stuff too, but big shout out to everybody in the chat for keeping it civil and good vibes.
Did we ever
So-
get an answer on the most popular gaucho? Were we able to put that poll on here, or do we have to do that on Twitter?
I think you should.
I actually threw it up in Plunge. Maybe you could retweet it because you're a bigger guy than I am.
Yeah, I mean,
But,
yeah, I don't know if you knew this, but I got like 50,000 engagements on that tweet from last night about
let's
which
see.
I was like bananas about. I was like, holy cow, this really resonated with some folks.
So I put it out there. I said the tweet for me, it's Alexander Champ. I added you. Alexander Champ is a certified gaucho hanging with Plunge Father and I in the Plungeon. Who is the most influential gaucho? Jim Rome, Steve Aoki, Alexander Champ. out of seven votes so far.
Oh, it's only 7.
You are winning 72%. Steve Aoki and Jim Rome. I would assume that would mean they each have 1. So you're winning 5 to 1 to 1 right now, but we can let it marinate and see how it ends up. See who wants to chime in. Go check my Twitter feed and go throw in a vote and tell everybody who's the most influential gaucho. The last thing I tweeted out. I might do some finger painting later tonight when I get off of this. I've got something that I've been brewing.
I love this finger painting.
This is my favorite comment of the night. I tracked the long-term thinkers. Flippers left when they saw the grass. Stay away, you demon flippers.
Yeah, right.
Goddamn demon flippers.
Undercutters not allowed.
Undercutters not allowed. This is the Plungeon. All right, boys. Hey, gents. It was super nice talking to you. I gotta go to sleep.
No.
But thanks everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I had a great time being here, hanging out with you and Sean.
We'll do it. We'll do it
Hope
again.
that
We'll do it
we
again
sometime for sure.
For sure.
Neat for now, Fitzwinch.
All right, we'll talk
His
later.
name Fitzwinch. Yeah, later.